We're live.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
There is danger outside, so don't go outside. You will never be able to judge for yourself how bad it is. You are better off in your own home. Stay there. Arrangements will be made as soon as possible to treat any people who are ill or injured. Details will be given about what to do, when to do it, and how. If anyone dies, move the body to another room in the house. Label the body with name and address, and cover it as tightly as possible in polythene, paper, sheets, or blankets. Tie a second card to the covering. The radio will advise you what to do about taking the body away for burial. If, however, you have had a body in the house for more than 5 days, and if it is safe to go outside, then you should bury the body for the time being in a trench or cover it with earth and mark the spot of the burial.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew?
Is that the first time you've heard that intro, Andrew?
I think I heard the last time I was on, but...
Yeah, I think the first time you did it, he was here.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you heard that. Dad really got a kick out of it.
No, I liked it. I remember there was a new intro. I just remember what it was, so when I was listening to it intently, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's going to last until the pandemic is over. So, or sick one of the two. I don't know. Depends on how I'm feeling that day, whether the pandemic's over or not. We'll bring back the old intro.
We'll hold a contest for our fans to make their own intro for the show.
Yeah. Are we going to have to tell mom and dad they got to get a Spotify account now? We're moving behind the Spotify paywall? Or
Nathan, there is no Spotify paywall unless you want premium.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Do you want to actually listen to a podcast or listen to a commercial every 5 seconds?
Nathan, you don't get commercials on podcasts on Spotify.
Are you sure?
I have Spotify. Do you?
What about the... yeah, well, there's some podcasts I used to listen to that moved there, and I've heard them on other formats, and they run commercials every 3 minutes.
That could be their podcast, but like we're on Spotify, we don't have commercials.
Well, okay.
So the way Spotify works is like you open it up and you click. So usually it's songs, and like you get like 2 or 3 songs, and they play. If you don't have premium Spotify, there's like a commercial in between songs. And then for podcasts, there's no commercials because unless they're like specifically monetized. But like all the podcasts I've listened to on Spotify don't have commercials. All the commercials are internal to the podcast.
Okay, so how are they making money?
How Spotify make money?
Yeah, how they make money off that?
How do they make money off of commercials?
No, off a podcast that just run with no commercials.
Oh, because they don't host the data. They just like link to it.
Oh, so why are people doing exclusives?
Because Spotify gives them money.
Okay, so how do they make money then?
Because then people are more likely to download their platform and then maybe switch to premium or get ads.
Oh, okay. Ones I've tried to listen to don't. They have more commercials than they did before. I mean, they used to run internal commercials for like Dick Pills and Ridge wallets, and now it was like like every other thing was some kind of commercial. Now, yeah, they weren't external commercials. There was those guys doing them, but it just came like every 3 to 5 minutes. So I gave up on that.
Yeah.
And plus, I don't have unlimited data, so I can't stream shit all the time. So.
I mean, music is hardly. You won't like reach your data cap for music or audio.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, on my phone.
Oh.
Home shit. I mean, my phone does not have a lot of data.
I mean, I don't know. Usually, like, I don't hit that cap either, and like I pretty much that's all I do for my phone is stream audio.
Yeah.
I don't do other things. I don't like. I'm not like other psychos that just like watch like I'm gonna watch season 8 of Family Guy on my phone.
I don't do that either. Anything that says it's streaming and I can't download it or whatever from home and then listen to it later, I'm like, well, I'm out. So.
But yeah, like but also Spotify has their weird thing is like Spotify, the app you use on the phone is different from the app you use on the desktop.
Okay.
So like if I make a playlist, like I can just select every song on that playlist, and then if you don't have premium and you use it on the phone, every playlist is randomized. Like you can't like listen to it in order.
Oh, I put the Spotify on my phone to listen to all the other podcasts I've lost, and I deleted it after trying to listen. Like one Sunday, I was like, I'm going to sit down and listen to these guys now. They're on Spotify, and it was like listening to radio. It's like, okay, I'm done. Well, I didn't know if everything was going to become that.
Did they like those podcasts that moved? They also moved out of the Apple Store too.
Yeah, they're behind.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. Is the people?
Well, they're not behind a paywall. You can get it for free if you want.
Well, okay.
If you hate the app that's free, I get that. But saying it's behind a paywall is technically incorrect.
The wall is they're running them like radio shows. The 4 that I lost that I can't no longer get on iTunes or anywhere else that are on Spotify are radio shows now, where they run commercials like radio.
Yeah.
They're not the podcasts they were.
Yeah.
You can't get them anywhere else. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I don't want that. I could listen to FM radio and not stream shit if I wanted to do that, which I don't.
I'm guessing you're bringing this up because Rogan's moving to Spotify.
Yeah. Which is not a big deal because I only like one out of the only podcast of his I like are the comedians. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to be missing a lot, but the amount of money they're giving him is like, wow, that's huge. And it's like, so what's that going to mean? How are they going to pay for that? Just aggregating data? Well, like I said, I've had others. They've started moving podcasts behind that a year ago. And like I said, they're not the same show. Maybe his will be because he's big enough, but
yeah. Well, I don't know if I listened to the podcast that you listened to that moved over, so
no, you probably don't.
So I don't necessarily.
They were mainly like crime podcasts, and I forget. I used to know what they were, but they're not on anything anymore that I listen to. So I can't recall them. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's just a paycheck for Joe Rogan, so.
Yeah. Well, they've taken about 25 of them away before, yeah.
But I don't know is like, because I know they've kind of beefed up their studio to do video stuff, and like, where's that video going now? Because I doubt it's on Spotify, because I don't think Spotify does video, unless that's their big move.
If Spotify made it so I could download stuff at home and put it on my phone and listen to it like a podcast, I'd get Spotify Premium. But as I understand, I don't think you can download stuff.
Yeah, you can. As long as you have an active premium thing, you can download anything. And then as soon as it goes away, basically you just like, that stuff is like locked up.
Okay.
But like, if you pay them, the service works as like how you would expect it to work for free. You get better video quality, no terrible ads. Things work the way you expect it. But yeah, I don't need another, because I keep going on and off of it because I'll pay for a subscription, and then like I don't use Spotify for like 2 months, and it's like, why am I paying for the subscription? And then every once in a while something will pop up and it's like $5 for 3 months. I was like, all right, I'll get back on Spotify again.
Well, that's another thing is like, I like these podcasts, but my cable bill is so fucking outrageously high. And I have Amazon Prime, and then some other things I get with help from my friends, but I'm not willing to pay any more money for entertainment. Between my cell phone bill and my cable bill, I could have a really nice car. Like, it's so fucking expensive anyway. When I hear that things I like are moving into this other world, and it's like, well, okay, fuck it. And whatever they give you for free is like worse than FM radio. It's like, oh, well, not interested. Now maybe that'll change. I don't know. We'll see. But for right now, it's not like,
And like, I don't know how long this deal is. I'm sure as long as when the deal comes up, they'll probably switch back over. But also, this probably has something to do with YouTube.
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
Because, like, YouTube is like trying
over.
YouTube will like try to dictate things to Joe Rogan, and he's like, "No, you're censoring me." And like, I'll go to Spotify. Well, they'll pay me lots of money, and I can say whatever I want.
Yeah. Well, that Spotify thing, if they do it right, I mean, it's going to be like, because remember, I had XM Radio back when that was brand new, and that was like the Wild West for 5 years, and it was fun.
Yeah.
But then, the woke brigade shows up there. I mean, the sheep will start bleeding wherever you go. So I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of like, there's like that Action Boys podcast I listen to. Like, they're a bit more, like, they're very liberal, but they're also like, they just like, they'll say what's on their minds, and they're not necessarily, and occasionally they'll be politically incorrect. And but because they're behind a paywall, like, people don't like narc on them, because the only people that listen to it spend money on it.
Yeah.
Where if it's free, then you got people who don't like the podcast or listening to it just to like find out how you offended them somehow. Which it used to not be with it. Like, podcasts used to be like kind of so like off the beaten path that nobody cared what people said on podcasts, and now people care.
Yeah. Well, like I said, wherever you go, the sheep will start bleeding.
Yeah.
Because XM radio was, you had to pay for that. That was a service you paid for, and people would just bitch, like crazy about any. I mean, a lot of it was Opie and Anthony, but there were other people too that they just went after, and it's like, don't listen to it. Literally, you don't have to listen to this ever, unless it comes for free in your car, and because you used to get 6 months free in your car, but you didn't even get those talk channels because that was an extra cost. And yeah, but that was. We'll see what happens. I don't know. But it's not, that my thing is, it's like, that's not the only podcast. That's just the biggest one. It's the ones everyone knows about. And it's like, oh, God, are we going to just lose all the podcasts?
No. I mean, it depends. Like, I don't know. None of the podcasts I listen to, like, there's no way because they don't, like, own themselves, or it's like a podcast, like, in addition to the company they're owned by. So there's not even, like, a way they're going to move behind Spotify.
Oh, okay.
But
I just know, like, a lot of those.
And then, like, a lot of podcasts I listen to, it's people that, like, they're trying to, as much as possible, have their stuff on as many platforms as they can.
Yeah.
And they don't have the luxury of, like, making themselves exclusive and getting money for it.
See, a lot of the stuff that I like to listen to that's disappeared was, remember that podcast on NPR, Serial?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot of podcasts that came out after that were, like, kind of in that vein. It didn't quite have the production values, but they had great research. And they would talk about, like, remember when I was talking about that guy in somewhere in Canada that would, like, killed 35 people on a hog farm, and they took him years, even though they knew he did it, they couldn't prove it for years, and he was still killing people because that was on one of those podcasts.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was a kind of a mid-range podcast. It's like you could tell these people were good researchers, and they put on a pretty good show, which was just pretty much just talk format. It didn't have special effects or interviews with police. And then all of a sudden that vaporized. It's like, well, that sucks. And then you find out, oh, it's over here. And then, like, 4 others that I liked like that. One of them even was like a history podcast. It wasn't quite as good as Dan Carlin's, but it was kind of, they like would do 10 different episodes kind of around the same era of, like, Roman stuff and all that. And well, then they disappeared, and it's like, oh, I'll go listen to them on this Spotify thing. And it was like listening to, it was like everyone was having an NPR fun drive every 3 minutes. It's like, well, this isn't what it was.
Well, I mean, there's different. I mean, like, Spotify stuff is going to get the ones that are more notable, and then, like, right now, people making money off the podcast, it's like Patreon's the way to go for right now.
Yeah.
If you can swing that.
Yeah, well, I started doing that a lot to hopefully keep the ones I like around.
Because usually, like, I mean, if you do Patreon, then usually, like that's good because then they're not really beholden to anybody other than the fans. Like, well, we're losing subscribers, like we better do something different or whatever.
Yeah. 'Cause most of the Patreons I do, it's just like all it does is the only thing you get is like access to all their old shows.
Yeah.
So, like months of podcasts to listen to that you didn't know about. That.
Well, yeah, that's why Mark Maron does his stuff. His stuff's free, but they put old stuff behind the paywall.
Yeah, and that's kind of what. And I like that because I felt like for $5 a month or whatever, get hundreds of hours of content. But when they were talking, like, I don't know what this is going to be paid into. Because when they were just taking the small guys, it's like, well, that's okay. These guys this is a way for them to make money doing a pretty good podcast. But when they start doing $100 million deals with celebrities, it's like, well, okay, where are we going with this?
I don't know. Anna Faris has a podcast, and I don't think they're paying her to do anything. So.
Oh, she has a podcast now too.
Oh, she's had it for a while.
Oh,
It's interesting because like it doesn't get like promoted, and she interviews like really famous people because she's in Hollywood,
Right.
And I don't know if anything like pops up in there about like her recent divorce or anything like that.
Unless it's finalized, it won't.
I believe it is because he's already like married to like one of Schwarzenegger's daughters,
Oh, okay.
and they're having a kid.
Wow, that didn't take long. Maybe that's why they got divorced.
I don't know. Every time that like pops up in my feed all the times, like the real reason they got divorced, and I never click it because I just know that's an easy click, and it's like you're not getting that click from me.
Oh, the clickbait stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really care. Unless it's something really interesting.
Well, I've been buying a.
Podcast. Did you hear Mark Maron's podcast?
Oh, about his girlfriend dying.
That was like I listened to that and I just had to shut that off. I was like, I can't do this right now.
Yeah.
That was a little too bleak. I didn't know. He'd mentioned the name a few times before, but I had no idea. Like they were in some relationship. I was like, that's just terrible.
Yeah, I
Weird too.
yeah. Well, it's because like this time when somebody dies, it's like was it COVID-19? Like no, she had like some blood disorder, I guess.
Yeah.
Which
I
was
don't know what that means. It sounds like, is that leukemia or is it something else?
I don't know. But yeah, that was just because I'm like really inconsistent with listening to Mark Maron. Like I just almost don't anymore. And then like that pop because like last time I knew he's like dating that painter, like something Kane, and I didn't know like they broke up and like he moved to a different house now. And, like, does he still like record in a garage at the new house, or is it he just have a dedicated room to it now?
I think he calls it the garage, but it doesn't sound like the other one.
Or does he just like still own his old house as well, and he records there?
No, I didn't think about that. I don't know. I just seems to have a little different vibe to it. I mean, I listen to that every week. It's kind of like with my NPR roundup of podcasts. It's like, yeah, I'm going to listen to this on the way to work. I had no idea what was going on when this popped up. It was like, oh, this is bleak.
Yeah.
Another happy Mark Maron relationship. I think he's doomed when it comes to that. You bought some stuff.
Yeah, I bought a bunch of shit that I probably don't need, but whatever.
so what'd you buy?
We got some monosodium glutamate here.
All right.
Oh,
Good old MSG.
Makes everything taste better. Where'd you get that?
Oh, Amazon. I mean, it's.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I've been watching a bunch of cooking shows on YouTube, and like it's been popping up every once in a while. And so I thought I'll try it. I put in a couple things. It's hard to like, because it's like it says on here, the essence of umami, which is like when you think of taste, like sweet, sour, savory. This is like another one. And it's hard to describe other than like fishy adjacent.
Okay.
Like I don't know. I haven't found necessarily the right thing to put it on yet, but I got it. It was like $5 for that whole fucking bag. So
It's Japanese, right?
I thought MSG was Chinese.
Yeah, I thought it
well, I remember like I don't know like where like the word like originates or anything like that, but yeah, it used to be like they used to like having Chinese food, and then like some guy complained, and then like it got taken out of Chinese food, and then they found out like because he claimed that it gave him headaches. It was based on some article, and then they just figured out, oh, he's just a racist who like blamed Chinese people, and that's why MSG got taken out of things.
Oh, I had no idea. I thought that was something.
No, it's not a bad thing.
Oh, okay.
I mean, maybe. I mean, it's like I don't know. It's got sodium, so who knows?
I mean,
Maybe
it's
enough of it.
bad for you, so yeah.
But it's also a different chemical composition, so who knows? I don't know. And then recommended from Wirecutter. Do you know what Wirecutter is?
Yeah.
Okay. It's basically like Consumer Reports, but you don't have to pay for it. It's and a lot better, like more well presented articles. But so I got tired of we have like fucking 5 pepper shakers here or grinders, and none of them work. Like none of them fucking grind.
Terrible.
And there's just those ones you get from the that you just get from the store. They're like ready to go, and like you don't like, but they for some reason no. So I bought a fucking pepper grinder.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
The big wooden one.
Yeah, the Peugeot pepper grinder. The I believe it's actually the same company that makes cars. I'm not sure.
That'd be interesting.
Well, there's like a little book pamphlet that like has like all the shit they make, and it's like a sewing machine from like the 1900s, and there's a car on there somewhere. So I think it's the same Peugeot, although the line insignia is slightly different from the car line insignia. So I don't know, but this is recommended. I think it was like $35. It's you got different like grades of. You can turn this thing to change the grade. This kind of locks it up, and it's just a simple wooden pepper grinder.
Does it work well?
Yeah, I mean, it works better than the cheap shit you get from the store. So,
True.
and now I can just take all the peppers out of those fucking cheap grinders and throw it in that one.
Or you can go to Costco and buy like a 5-pound thing of, whatever your favorite peppercorns are.
Yeah.
Bucks.
Yeah, I want to try the because in cooking shows I've been watching, they had like red peppercorns, which I want to try those and see if they're any different.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what kind of taste the difference are, or they're just like more of it's a color and flora thing.
I've seen black ones, green ones, and red ones.
Yeah, I haven't seen green ones.
Yeah, it's you can get them. It's called peppercorn medley.
Huh.
You get all 3 of them mixed together, and yeah, it's a little more flavorful.
Okay.
I'd say like how pepper, I guess you'd say it has kind of a low tone, kind of what I call a dark flavor or an earthy flavor. The red ones are more of a high tone flavor, kind of like a chili type flavor. I'd say. Yeah, I don't know if that's exactly correct, but that's how I enjoy it.
And then I using more of my tax money and not my Trump books. I got a Mister.
Okay, what's that?
So this thing specifically is a DE10 Nano. It's like something that Intel makes.
Okay.
And it's a circuit board and processors that does something that's called FPGA, which is fully programmable gate array.
Okay.
So what they use this for is use this for emulation for like video games and shit.
Okay.
And so what it does differently is that it's not exactly so the emulation used usually on your computers is like pure software emulation. Like the software is trying to emulate the hardware.
Okay.
And so it's not always perfect. And usually you have to have like the system has to be like so many times more powerful than the thing it's emulating just to try to emulate it correctly. So it's like very inefficient. And it still gets it wrong some ways. So what this does is like that processor there, like half of that processor inside of there, it uses this thing where basically it'll mimic hardware. So it's hardware mimicking hardware. So you got software telling this hardware to mimic the original hardware of like the NES or the Super NES, and then it's more accurate when it emulates a video game.
Okay.
So it'll be like stuff they showed a video of like they're playing like Gradius 4 on the Super Nintendo, and there's a part where there's like a bunch of shit on screen, and like it was slowing down because there's a bunch of shit on screen, but like that was actually accurate to the original console, so it wasn't necessarily like a bad thing. Like the emulation was wrong. It's like no, it's correct. It was just the game was programmed poorly. So yeah, I've only gotten the Genesis stuff and NES and Game Boy Advance stuff to work on it. I got this little add-on here. It's more RAM because I wanted to get the Neo Geo stuff to work, but I haven't gotten to work, so kind of bummed about that. But I'll have to, like, all you have to do is this, like, there's an SD card, and you just like load up the thing, and you can just like throw different SD cards in here and have like whole different setups, and like it doesn't, and then the hardware never changes. It kind of so. And then I'm waiting on a fucking like a multi USB port from fucking England for some reason. Because I bought because there's a bunch of shit. There's like you see these posts here. You can like add shit to it. There's like you can just like keep adding to this board like different shit that just keeps getting taller and taller if you need it to. So that's kind of interesting. Because and also it's nice about this is that it outputs to HDMI, so it's like old games looking nice on like modern like LCD displays and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of times there's a problem with like because it was, like the best way to present this stuff would to be on a CRT television, but who the fuck needs those or wants those? Yeah, so this like
Buy those anymore?
no, I don't think anybody. Well, there's probably somebody that makes
Some
them.
obscure need for them, but yeah.
I know there's like because when people like you get down and dirty into like emulation, it goes like really deep to like where people are buying. There's like these really it'd be like studio monitors that they'd use like back in the 80s, and they're like super professional and like they play like video games the best because how like the refresh rate is like super high and all this, and or I guess it wouldn't be pixel density, but whatever, it works best. And there's like there's like a subsection where like, oh, that monitor was actually used for like security camera systems. And it's like just like finding places that are like throwing out like old like, oh, we're replacing our security camera things. Like you can get a steel and just take those TVs out of the dumpster and make an awesome emulation rig or whatever. But yeah, all that shit's dying out. So you gotta figure out a way to, and also like all arcade cabinets, like all that stuff is like dying out because all those arcade cabinets like they use CRT monitors.
Right.
So you either gotta do just an LCD replacement or it's just fucked. Like there's
That sounds like high-end vinyl type stuff.
yeah.
Like, yeah, we're gonna have this argument because this is better.
Well, speaking of things people bought with government money, I bought a new Weber grill and a bunch of lawn furniture and shit because didn't have anything outside, and my wife wanted to be able to grill the shit again, so bought a bunch of stuff for that and spent like 2 hours assembling my Weber grill, and it's been really good so far, and I like it. It has it cooks really well, and
Spirit. Or the,
yeah, Spirit 210.
That's what I have.
Because it's one of the cheaper ones, but it works really well and it cooks evenly, and it's actually a really nice grill for the money.
Yeah.
So, not that Weber ever has a problem with that, but it's just you have to pony up more money than you'd like to probably for a grill. But this one doesn't like when I open the panel all the way. It doesn't like the top rack doesn't fall down like the old one I used to have, and it's it actually like rolls places and the wheels don't fall off. So,
Nice.
So. Had a good time so far making wings yesterday on it, and then I we did like chicken sandwiches and stuff. I got some carnitas and stuff to do this weekend too, so gonna have a good time with that. Well, that and my new Samsung oven that has Teflon all over it. So, Colin, you lived here when you didn't have a working oven. You could have had a stainless steel masterpiece.
So one of those glass top ones where there's no like the coil sticking out.
No, this is gas, so it has like 5 burners on it. There's like a quick like 17,000 BTU burner on it, so it like boils water in a couple minutes. And like it has simmer burner, and it has like a giant center burner for like a griddle that comes with it.
Oh, it's got okay. Yeah, I saw that the other day. Someone had the griddle thing on there. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, by the time remove and install, it's like $1,000. But whatever. It's Trump bucks. It's but no, I haven't really bought anything else though because I don't really have anything else I need. or at least one anymore right now. You buy anything with your Trump bucks, Nathan?
No, I just paid my bills.
Nah.
I haven't bought any new models in 2 months, so because the store is closed. So
Oh, your store is closed.
yeah, you can't have anything like that open here. You can't cut hair here. You can't get tattooed. Just grocery stores and some food places. That's all it's open, and liquor stores, of course.
You're not picking up some AMC models at Walmart. Do they even sell models at Walmart anymore?
Not here.
Okay.
I think like everything here has become a super center or closed. I think there's a few of those old Walmarts left, and they do have like I know Meyer sells like the bad stuff. Like it's all cars, it's simple
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, I'm not sure it used to be AMC Ertl, like that was the big one back in the day. I'm not even sure if they're still. And what Revel was Revel the other one?
Yeah, Revell is they're still around. That's a German company now, or I think it's always been a German company. Their U.S. branch went bankrupt, but the Revell of Germany still around. That's like that MiG I built. That was Revell Germany.
Oh.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, AMT Ertl. Somebody bought all their dies. I think it's a company called Round 2. That's who made like the Klingon, the light up Klingon ship I made and all that. That's.
Wait, who was, I thought that was what I was thinking. Was it Polaris? Is that another company?
Polar Lights.
Oh, Polar Lights.
Polar
Okay.
Lights and Round 2 are the same company. I think.
Okay. Because I thought they made that like those Star Trek ones.
Yeah, I think Round 2 is. I'd have to ask John, but I think Round 2 is all the Ertl reissues.
Okay.
Polar Lights are the original like stuff they come up with.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I forget who makes this stuff in Meyer. It might be Monogram. I don't know. I don't build models like that. Maybe I should. Maybe I should try it.
Try to make them better.
I don't know if I could make them better. I could.
Just be full of putty and everything, trying to fix everything.
I'm better with painting and styles and decals than I am with body construction. Because if it doesn't go together good, I'm not going to be the guy that's. Some of those guys are aces at, like, I'm going to shave this and shape this and fabricate this. I'm not that good yet. Some guys can make a crappy model look like a $500 contest winner, but I'm not those guys.
Have you tried using green stuff for Milliput at all, or no?
Yeah, I use the Vallejo, the putty.
Oh, okay.
It's got ground up marble in it. It takes a long time for it to dry because it's acrylic, but once it does, you can like shape it so nicely, and like if you need a rounded curve, it looks really nice when you're, because some of those putties they get kind of porous as they dry. But because Vallejo puts, I don't know, I think it's ground up marble or something like that. But yeah, when you got to sand it down and shape it, you don't get a lot of that porosity. And when you paint it, it doesn't look, I mean, you should always prime it first. But when you prime and paint it, like it looks no different from the rest of the plastic around it. I've had to do a bill on that. Some guys like it, some guys don't. I do.
Yeah, because like when you did the Klingon model, you were like disappointed on how much stuff you had to do for the cost of the model, and then you do that like after the Millennium Falcon, and the Millennium Falcon, everything fit together perfectly.
Yeah. Millennium Falcon was a $400 model that went together like a $400 model, and I did a lot of paint. I didn't do any experimentation on it because I wanted it to look really nice. But yeah, I worked. Everything went good with. The Millennium Falcon, and then I bought another model with the light kit that was it was like $100 less, and yeah, I was basically fabricating like half the time. It's like, why am I fabricating builds?
I didn't. Sorry, I was on Vallejo's site because after you said that, I wanted to look it up because we have like a couple different Milliputs and stuff like that at the shop. But we don't have Vallejo. We have Vallejo paint, but not anything else. I didn't know they make like scenery grass tufts now.
Yeah, they've
like
expanded. Because who else? I don't know. It's not Vallejo. It's like the one, MIG Ammo has come out with like a third generation acrylic that I haven't played with yet. And then Tamiya's coming out with, so they're going to have their alcohol-based acrylic paints, which are really good. And then they're coming out with straight-up lacquer paints to compete with Mr. Hobby. And a lot of people were asking about those before the crisis. And like, yeah, I try those. And they'd ask me, he's like, Nathan, are you going to try those? I'm like, probably not. Because I'm pretty comfortable with what I'm doing. I don't want to. I have hundreds of bottles of Vallejo here in all different colors. It's like I'm not going to just throw that out, and I'm not going to go with all lacquer all the time because I need a paint booth because that stuff's like super bad for you. So.
Oh, they even have stencils now, so you can like make patterns with overspray and with your airbrush or rattle can.
Yeah, they do some patterns and.
Have you ever done anything with cheesecloth?
I have done stuff with wire mesh screen.
Okay.
The painting is kind of I would shoot the paint through it to give it kind of a diffused grid effect. And it sort of worked. It was to create kind of it was to make it look like different panels aged kind of differently.
Yeah.
But I've never done cheesecloth. No, I've done things with materials similar, but what would you do with cheesecloth? Have you heard of something?
Well, I think it just like the sort of the pores on it, like kind of create a grid pattern in a way, and you can use it in various ways in painting. Like they'll use it like remember they'll do like American Chopper, like they'd always have stuff where they'd use cheesecloth to like make kind of like a it's almost like a transparent overlay. Like that's how they'd use cheesecloth.
Okay.
I just remember like they use it in painting. I didn't know if like you guys have done some process with it while painting models or not.
No, I haven't. I've done
because the pores because on a model size those pores might be too big or too small, or the detail will just like the detail's too big for it to actually show up correctly on that size of model.
Yeah, that might be the case. I mean, you always, for me, I'm like when I do a lot of armor, I'm looking for variation. Like paint, kind of has a tonal flux to it. Yeah, you can do it with stuff like that, or you can do like a dark coat and then spray light through something like a lighter coat of paint. And it makes it look either dusty or more weathered.
Huh.
It just creates tonal variation. You're just trying to recreate world stuff in the best way possible. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't, but it still looks cool.
Yeah, and I haven't done anything necessarily technique-wise with anything that isn't a brush, or people keep telling me to use sponges to do like weathering effects and like chipping.
Yeah.
But I haven't done any of that stuff yet. So I mean, I have the sponge. I just don't have a model that I like really can try it out on at the moment.
The only thing I've ever done is I was working on a Star Wars short film that never went anywhere, but I bought a bunch of Star Wars models, and I bought that shitty like Revel spray paint thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like you just get from Walmart. So I had that, and so I had the snow speeder from Empire, and at first I just spray painted it black, just straight black, and then I spray painted it white on top of that, and like basically like where the spray like missed things, it made it look like those were wear marks.
Yeah.
Which was like accidental. It's like, oh yeah, that works.
Technique's called black basing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually a thing people do.
Because yeah, even if you watch like different airbrush videos and stuff like that, as far as like base coating and then doing it, they call it a zenithal highlight. So you kind of just like spray for one direction, and then you kind of like left with like dark shadows on one side and like a lighter touch on the other side. It looks like you spent hours on it, but it's just like you sprayed down at one angle and that's all you did.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's some clever people out there.
Oh yeah.
Figure some of that stuff out.
Trying to figure out is it called plastic putty?
Let me get it.
Because I'm still looking at their website and I still can't find it because I'm looking at like everything in hobby, and like it's not coming up. So
Yeah, it's 100% acrylic resin plastic putty.
oh, okay, yeah, because there's the dropper bottle, and then there's like a squeeze tube.
Yeah.
I don't know why the dropper bottle is necessary. The squeeze tube looks like it has a really fine needle on it, which would be amazing. More than the like, hey, look, here's a giant tube
Yeah.
to spray things. Oh yeah, like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of it unless you're like building aircraft carriers or something.
Well, I think the only like giant one I used green stuff from like a big scale where it was like the size of a marble when I started with it was making a neck for my Chaos Knight to fit the demon head on it instead of the mechanical head that came in the Loyalist kit. Because I needed to make a veiny neck for the mini tongue-eyed fucking, I don't know, swole boy head that went on him. So
Just use JB Weld.
what's JB Weld?
I haven't used JB Weld before. It's a
No, I've never.
it's one of those, what do you call those, epoxy glues? You put two things together and it mixes it.
Oh, okay.
It's a two-part epoxy with iron, basically iron dust ground up in it. So when you put it on, I know a guy that fixed a crack in an engine block for something he just wanted to get down the road. And like the engine block had cracked, and he put JB Weld in there. It was for a piece of equipment, but it was like some old inline 6-cylinder engine for something. And yeah, you can put it on there. You can grind on it and everything. You can shape it.
Jesus.
It is miraculous, but also don't trust it with your life.
Yeah.
Oh.
Don't fix your carabiner with
Yeah, because because like the internal mechanism of my door, my last car, it broke, and I just took it apart and I JB welded it back together and it worked fine. But like every 8 months it would break and I'd have to JB weld it again. Until eventually I found out because there's no good way to just buy a part for a car unless you're like a dealership, and then if you get them to buy the part for you, it's marked up 100%. So I found out, oh yeah, eBay is a great place to just get parts of your car. So I ordered the door kit or the door handle from eBay, got it here, and it was like, oh, it's done.
Yep, can't beat it for that. But yeah, that's what is it with JB Weld? Oh yeah, JB Weld on models. I think the curing would probably melt the model.
Yeah, probably.
Because it goes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, depending on even if it was resin, plastic, or metal or whatever, I don't know what the chemical reaction would be. I mean, the metal would probably be fine, but the resin and plastic, I don't know if it would.
Well, and that door handle, the door handle was plastic, and I was just repairing that, but I don't know what plastic that was.
Yeah, because I mean, I use a certain type of glue. It's like plastic weld glue for most of my GW stuff, and it works. But you touch any other plastic with it or resin, it doesn't work at all. It's innate. So I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I've never looked up what their property for their plastic is, but I know you can't melt it and reform it. I know that. So
I heard about something. I think I've talked about this before, but it actually became a big deal on some of the Facebook groups I'm in. Because they some of the model Facebook groups slam the door on people selling stuff at all. So they used to allow it. And I guess there's some kind of epidemic now of people recasting models and reselling them as originals, but they're actually just stuff that they made. They took original models and made molds and then recast them themselves. It's mainly the resin model community that's a thing.
Yeah.
And because there's $500 resin models, that they're kind of garage shop made ones, and the people just buy them and recast them themselves and resell them, and it's yeah, that sounds like a clear violation of some kind of law. It's an epidemic again, I guess. It went away for a while, and then a lot of the sites I was on had to ban selling it, period, because people were doing that.
Well, I mean, the bigger thing with recasting is also just 3D printers now, because to be honest, most of the people in my shop that I game with just on one gaming system half the people have 3D printed shit anymore just because of the outlandish cost of just buying a real model anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And now with the Trump bucks, at least the 5 other people just bought a 3D printer to do just that, which is mitigate the cost of the hobby. So, because they just announced the new edition today, and at least we don't have to buy anything right off the bat, but it sounds like at least a $50 rulebook right off the bat, plus whatever codexes they come out with, and new rules or cards or whatever bullshit they got hitting up their ass. So, I mean, I don't think anybody has. I don't begrudge anybody because I don't want to spend another like $8,000 or $12,000 buying more models or whatever. But at the same time, I guess I don't get why. I mean, some people really vehemently hate people that use that shit because everybody, if you paid $5,000 for all your shit and you wanted to game with it and have a good time and go to tournaments, you'd probably hate the person that paid like $60 for all their shit with all the rest of that stuff. So, I mean, I don't know.
I pride myself on gatekeeping this game, but how much money is spent on it?
Well, it is a huge fucking money drain though, because if you're gonna like be a tournament player and chase the meta and shit like that, and just be all about being competitive, you're gonna have to change up your army like every 2 or 3 months and buy whole hordes of models and make them and convert them, whatever, paint them, do whatever desire, and it's just a big fucking time sink. So, I, on the other hand, I'm poor enough that I buy a lot of models, but then I just sit on them until they become competitive. So I don't have to wait for the meta to shift; it comes to me. So, but no, what was I gonna say? Is there any hobby stuff you've been more thinking about recently, Colin, besides getting your new computer piece to help you run emulators better?
No, just in doing that emulation thing. That's kind of the latest hobby. I put together a puzzle.
Oh.
Because I got the. They're having a fire sale at the Mystery Science Theater 3000 store, and so
Oh, really?
I got a puzzle that's normally $40 for about $10, and then $5 shipping and handling. So, and this is for
They set on a fire sale because they think they're not going to be able to sell any of it anymore or something? Or
they're
what?
probably going to close the store down. I don't know.
Oh.
That's why I imagine. Because I mean, they're not gonna have another season of the Netflix show, so they're pretty much done. So, yeah, this is for the second season, the what do they call it, the Gauntlet. That's right.
Oh, yeah. Was there anything else cool on there, or was it just the puzzle that struck your eye?
I mean, there's other like little stuff, but the puzzle one was like the one that seemed interesting to me. I finished putting it together. Like some of the black bits was hard. Like that was just trial and error at the end. Just like, does this piece work? Does this piece work? And although the weirdest fucking thing was like, so there's this company. It's called Messed Up Puzzles. Like that's the name of the company that put this together. And I went to their website, and it's like basically like 80s and like softcore porn slasher flicks that they make puzzles for. Like they don't even sell this one on their website. They just sell like the weird like softcore porn 80s puzzle slasher flicks. Because there's one, it's just called Pieces, and it's like a naked lady, but there's like blood splotches covering her crotch, but her nipples are still exposed. I'm like, what the fuck's this movie? And they have that like, Italian. There's like a famous Italian zombie movie just called Zombie, but it's like Zombi, and it just has like this. It just looks like a head that's been decayed for like years, and it's like teeth sticking out, and it's a zombie head.
I just think it's funny that somebody would friggin' like think that's a good puzzle to put together, just like a half naked lady.
Silent Night, Deadly Night jigsaw puzzle.
Yep. Yeah, it's mostly slasher films, but there's stuff that's like pretty pornographic or like softcore pornographic.
Yeah.
What if I want hardcore puzzles? Where do I have to go for hardcore puzzles?
I'm sure
there's No, the most hardcore puzzle I saw is there's one. It's like 2,000 or it's like 10,000 pieces, and they're all white.
Jesus.
And somebody put that shit together.
Yeah, my grandma and grandpa used to do that for a hobby. They framed them and like hung them up on the wall once they were done with them and shit. And like their biggest one was like this. I think it was like a 4x4 like plywood slab that they glued all the puzzle pieces to and hung on the fireplace or whatever. And it's like, holy fucking shit, that's a huge puzzle.
Yeah, that's what I'm debating to do with this one, but I'm probably just going to take it apart and put it back in the box and never use it again.
Lovely night. Put that together and get it on your wall. I don't think I've ever seen that movie. It's just an iconic poster of Santa Claus coming out of a chimney with an axe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever watched any of those. I never got into those movies.
No, the only time I see that stuff is when like they do something on Red Letter Media because Jay's like a huge horror film buff. Which is like weird because he's so critical about other movies, but like these like obviously terrible horror movies, he has a soft spot in his heart for them.
Right.
It's like, oh well, they obviously had no budget, and look how hard they're trying, because that's the movies they make, or at least that's how they want to be thought of about their movies. Because while I liked Space Cop, it's not a good movie. That's on Amazon now. It's not streaming, but it's not on Prime, but you can buy or rent it on there.
Oh, speaking of movies, did everybody watch the Dolomite Netflix movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Walmart had Dolomite and Human Tornado or whatever, the follow-up film from him. So I bought Dolomite thinking like I knew what I was going into because I had watched the Netflix film and figured that most of it would kind of be following at least what the narrative of the film led me to believe was the movie. It was not anywhere fucking close. It was so goddamn hard to watch, and it's like an hour and a half long. It was like the best parts are like the first 10 minutes, and after that it's all just giant pile of shit.
So it's like it's like watching the movie about The Room that James Franco made versus actually watching The Room. It's difference. Okay.
Well, exactly, but at the same time, it's like the Netflix movie leads you to believe like it's more like an unintentional like Naked Gun or whatever. Like it's a comedy movie before its time, and it's underappreciated, and everybody just loved it because it made so much money at the box office. So you figure that it has some value.
Right.
And it's like it does in the first 10 minutes because like the acting and editing are so bad. It's like, holy fucking shit, this is funny. Just seeing how bad these people are acting, but also how bad the editing is spliced together because it's like they didn't even look at the scene before they put the other scene next to it. Okay, so like the warden scene where he's like getting out of prison and his queen bee's vouching for him and shit. Like it goes, the warden's smoking a cigarette, he's talking to Dolomite and he's like, well, you want to get out today? And he's like, well, I don't know, warden, I don't know why you want me back out on the street. And he's like, well, I was convinced because Queen Bee put in a good word for you. And she's just sitting there just like staring blank at a wall, just not having any emotion, nothing. And then all of a sudden it's like she's crying into a tissue and you can see she's worked up and emotional. And then it cuts right back to her staring blank at a wall. No emotion. And it's like, holy shit, that's bad editing. Why the fuck? It's like, I know why they...
It's either that or they didn't have any coverage. So.
Yeah, they probably didn't.
We only shot 2 scenes and we only can cut between those 2 shots.
And then, like, he gets out of prison, and it's obviously, like, an apartment complex with, like, a gate that they go through or whatever, because it doesn't look like a prison at all. And he gets into a limo, and, like, he's wearing this, like, weird, like, fringe, like, pimp suit getting out of jail, and then his bitches pull up in his limo. And then he's like, oh, thank God I changed the clothes. And then he changes into a different frilled pimp suit, because apparently that one was too last year or whatever the fuck. And then he gets into the limo and it's like all of a sudden he just like starts getting blowjobs and shit right from the women in the limo. It's like this started from 0 to 100 really quick. And then that's pretty much where the movie goes to complete shit, and it's not fun at all after that.
Well, did you watch Human Tornado?
No, I didn't watch that yet.
Because the Red Letter Media guys did a whole feature about all his films, and the one that seemed the most interesting to me was Petey Wheatstraw, because that one looked fucking crazy. Where he basically sells his soul to the devil and then basically like kills the devil. But it's like But that's like one of the last movies it did, so it's probably better production. But who knows? I haven't seen it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that one's available to buy because I know that at least the first two were made into
Well,
Blu-ray copies.
you're just fishing these out of the Walmart bin, right? So
Yeah, they're $10 a piece at the Walmart rack. Yeah, because I was gonna give them to Matt, and I probably still will, because he'll appreciate how terrible they are. I don't want everyone.
Matt likes bad movies.
I mean, I kind of hope they get Preeti Wheatstra at some point so I can complete the collection. But at the same time, like I'm really hoping he learned a lesson from the first one, and the next two are at least slightly better.
Well,
as
yeah,
far as,
that's why I was interested. Like if they got better, if you saw the second one yet, but we'll wait on that.
I think if the first one had been slightly better,
yeah,
I might actually watched it.
Yeah, I mean, you said the first 10 minutes are good, and then the last hour and 20 minutes are terrible. So that's not really like leading you, and that's not really a nice lead in to the next film. Like, great, let's watch another one.
Well, because like right after that, I watched VFW, and I was like, oh my god, this movie is so much better. It's still a low budget like movie, but at least it does everything like actually well. It's actually like a decent movie. So I mean, I was kind of more worried about that movie sucking than that was actually a better movie. So I was like, holy shit. But no, there's yeah, I'm kind of interested to see the rest of his work, but it's gonna take a while. So
I think I only made like 4 movies. I can't remember though.
Yeah. I only see 4.
Yeah, because I still know he did like comedy albums and stuff like that too during that time as well. But he actually had like all of his comedy albums in shot during each of the scenes of the movie. So that was kind of like an Easter egg thing to watch out for because he has his record display like all the time. But other than that, that was kind of like the last interesting thing in the movie. It's like, oh, that's his record in the background. But there's like this weird fucking guy that I don't, even in the 70s, I don't know why the hell anybody would think this is a good character. He's called the Cheeseburger Pimp. And he just like walks around like a crackhead, like going is like jittering and like, I want a cheeseburger. Like going around getting cheeseburgers and acting like a fucking crazy person.
Yeah, it's their update of the Popeye character. Is it Wimpy?
Yeah, Wimpy. Yeah, Wimpy.
I guess well, there's a weird thing in it. I saw the new Patton Oswalt comedy special.
Okay.
So it's good. I like it because I like Patton Oswalt, so it's really hard for me to not like something he does. So take that with a grain of salt. But he has a great joke about subcontractors. That's pretty funny.
Oh, okay.
Where it's like he just gets in the world. It's like you talk to the contractor, but then you get into the weird world of subcontractors. Where there's people that just got out of prison and they figured out how to do one thing very well, but you have to like work with them. It's like the only time. It's like, all right, we need this guy. He does the best tiling in the world, but the only way we can contact him is by sending a raven in the middle of the night. That's but like if you click on it, it's like the comedy special is like kind of loaded up like a season. Because he has attached so if you it's played like a season, so you watch his special and there's another special after it that's like a comedian that he likes and he put it at the end of his special, which is kind of interesting. I tried watching that, but that one was kind of hard, and Patton also gave him the pretty hard sell. It's like, I'm sure you'll love this guy. He's been around forever, and then it just seemed like he was doing. I don't know. I didn't get through it. He reminded me of like angry George Carlin, but not as good. Which I know, comparing someone to George Carlin and calling him not good, it's like, well, that's like every comedian. So
this is like the declining years George Carlin, but not as funny. It's kind of like George Carlin at the end when he was kind of sort of incoherent. Had those TV deals and then hated himself. That George Carlin. Remember his daughter had, and this was a long time ago, had a podcast on the Smodcast network. It was really bleak.
It wasn't an episode. It was like a series.
Yeah, it started out as an interview between her and Kevin Smith, and then she was kind of doing her own things where it was missives, and it's just like, yeah, all this humorous or all these kind of poignant observations about society, like George Carlin would make, but with none of the humor. You know, just kind of railing against George Bush and all that kind of stuff. State of the world, and it's. I think this came out after George Bush, but yeah, it was like, yeah, this is true, but not funny. It's kind of bleak. So it's like, yeah, George Carlin drained of all the mirth. Where's the comedy special at on Netflix?
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
It's called shit. What's it called? It's like Feeling Happy or something like that. If you just put Patton Oswalt, you'll find like the latest one.
Probably check.
But like I said, it looks like a season. Or have you ever seen, like, sometimes they do those comedy specials on Netflix where it's like a pack of comedians. It's like none of these comedians are famous enough to have like their own special, so they just put 8 of them together and called it like the New Ground Comedians or something like that.
Yeah. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, because
I saw a good. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, he was on Joe Rogan recently, and I haven't listened to it. But yeah, he's been out there promoting his special.
Yeah, he's one of the lucky guys that he got to he did a call in on Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
because usually he doesn't do a lot of those unless it's like Edward Snowden. That was an interesting episode.
No, the good thing I saw on Netflix this week was Never Have I Ever. It's a show. Upon further research, apparently my wife's cousin was the DP of photography on that show. So he did that. It's narrated by John McEnroe. And it's like this teenage girl or her friends like doing stupid shit in high school and stuff like that, and her dad dying the same year and all that other crap. And it's actually pretty it has some funny parts, but it's actually a pretty good show, and it has pretty decent structure and plot and stuff like that. And interesting to see if that goes anywhere, because I haven't heard if it's gotten renewed yet or anything. And God,
the editor or the
he's narrator.
Narrator.
He's the voice inside the girl's head.
the tennis guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
her inner voice is John McEnroe.
Yeah. Is
that funny? Did they play it for laughs, or is it just like straightforward?
They kind of play it for laughs. I mean, it's not like her voice inside her head, but it kind of just like, holy shit, that fucking happened. I can't believe that she kissed a boy or whatever. It's just like,
well, now I'm trying to think of like Wonder Years, but if it was narrated by Pamela Anderson.
Well, then one episode it covers one of the boys that she goes to high school with, and the narrator for that episode is Adam Sandberg or whatever, because it has like Lonely Island posters in the background and like all this other shit. So.
Okay, so it's modern day. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
But yeah, I think he's been the DP on like the Sarah Silverman show and a bunch of other shows, either short-lived or not, on like Fox and ABC and shit. So it's interesting to see him do like a Netflix show this time. So
glad people are getting work.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot of people are still out of work, unfortunately, but
oh yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's all stopped production.
Yeah.
So that must have been already in the bank. So.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know if I talked about last week, but they only shot like half of the season finale for The Blacklist, and so they decided like we're gonna animate the season finale. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And then you see it, and it's like, Jesus Christ, guys, punt that to next year. It looks like a fucking Dire Straits video. It's fucking terrible.
Well, people are starved for content right now. You gotta push it out. Just get it out there.
Yeah.
Not that starved.
No.
Oh, did anybody see? There's this breakdown of Quibi and like how much money they've spent and like what they're doing with their platform and how it's just going to go under soon because nobody's downloading it.
Yeah.
Because they spent like $1.75 million creating content and making that, or $1.75 billion doing it.
Billion.
And so like they like
$1.75 million. Yeah, that's a hill you can climb.
Sorry, I don't know why I said. But
because million sounds reasonable towards the quality of what they've made.
Well, because it was
doing great.
Well, no, because it was talking about like it's one of the worst downloaded apps right now, when all the apps are actually doing way better because it's quarantine and everybody's on their phones all the time because they're sitting at home, and so they ripped off a bunch of content creators on YouTube, and so they ripped off like popular shows from years ago and just created the same format using the same graphics and everything.
Yeah.
And they're also like just making whole movies and stuff like that, but then just chopping them down to 7 or 10 minutes. So they don't have to pay anybody half the rate they would usually make on a movie.
Yeah, so like there's a Kiefer Sutherland, they did a Fugitive remake with Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And essentially they just shot a 2-hour movie. But then because they cut it up into 10 minutes, that gets changed to the short format, and under the short format rules for like the WGA, like Writers Guild and Directors Guild and all that stuff, you can pay people like 30% less than you would have. So they just went out and they shot a normal ass movie with a cheaper crew, and then just put out the content. But because it's chopped up in the 10-minute chunks, it's it's a workaround.
Oh yeah, because they were talking about like everybody can like view a movie in portrait or landscape, but the problem with that is in portrait mode it totally chops the frame in half and you don't get the whole frame. So it was like showing
Yeah,
a
there's not.
frame of.
You would have to shoot it very specifically for that stuff to work in consideration, but like nobody did. um, but like, well, the interesting thing is that's good for the content creators is that if you signed up for it, it's like the Quibi holds it's exclusive for like a certain amount of years, and then they can bring it to whatever platform they want. So
Yeah, it was 2 years, so it's 2 years. Quibi holds the rights to it, and after that, they can make whatever money they want off of it. So that's good because you don't have to worry about like, oh, we made it, now we can't do anything with it, because supposedly the other movie they made was actually really good, but it's so jarring, cut up into 7 to 10 minute chunks that nobody wants to watch it.
well, yeah, I hear the Fugitive one is actually good, but you wouldn't know if you watched it in 10-minute chunks.
Well, the one with Christoph Waltz is supposed to be good too, but I can't remember what the hell it's called now. It's a remake of a movie as well, but I can't remember what it's called.
Is he playing a Nazi?
No, he's not playing a Nazi.
Well, that's what he's famous for here.
I liked him in Django. He wasn't a Nazi in that.
No, but he was.
And,
yeah.
Glorious Bastards.
Yeah.
Didn't he win an Oscar for that?
I think it just got nominated because, like, has anybody ever won an Oscar off a Quentin Tarantino movie?
I don't think so.
Because I know he hasn't won any of them, but I didn't know if anybody got like Best Supporting or Best Actors. Like, did John Travolta get like a Best Supporting Actor for Pulp Fiction or anything?
I don't know. Let me look. Oscars.
Because like I'd almost feel bad for Quentin Tarantino, but then I realized like he's Quentin Tarantino. Like, why I feel bad for him? He gets to do exactly what he wants. Did you guys see the new trailer for Tenet?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I did.
I don't. That didn't make me more excited for it, but I'm still gonna watch it regardless. So
It regardless of the first impression of it made it just seem like it was an alternate universe, like weird paradox type of thing. But now it just seems like it's an agency full of specially powered people. So I mean, it kind of seems slightly different perspective wise now, but I still want to see it. So.
well, I think the stuff is cool. I just thought like the parts where the people are acting, there seemed a lot like it seems like Christopher Nolan was trying to write people to sound cool, and then they don't. But whatever. And maybe it's just hard to cut a trailer for that movie because it's more interesting than what you can make in a trailer. I trust Christopher Nolan. Like, he really doesn't make bad movies, and he's like the only director that can make a $200 million movie that isn't based on anything.
Yeah, he's probably like one of the main original content creators besides Wes Anderson that's like a mainstream director.
Yeah, well,
So,
I mean, I guess Wes Anderson is mainstream, but he's not making $200 million movies.
no, he's not.
Like, it's a pretty safe bet to like give Wes Anderson $20 million to make a movie.
Because I'm assuming Wes Anderson's new movie got delayed along with everybody else's stuff, but I think it was coming out later in the year anyway, so I don't know if it actually is
like, yeah,
delayed.
the stuff that's going to come out that was planned to come out later this year, I'm betting it's still going to come out. It's like next year that I don't know, like how I don't know, because like it depends. Like if productions got closed down and stuff that was meant to come out summer next year, if they're just moving summer movies to next summer, and then everything just lines up that way, or if just all of a sudden everything just gets crowded. I don't know how it's gonna be.
I guess Simon Hollywood won for best movie
Huh?
in 2019.
Oh, he won for best movie for that.
No, he didn't. That was Parasite.
Oh, why does it say?
Was that a Golden Globe or something?
Yeah, these fucking award things on these movies they're all jumbled together. It's like the only one we care about. Okay, now I'm on it. Oh yeah. Why is it not? Where's the Oscar coming up? Okay, the Golden Globe Awards have stolen the Oscars website because it just redirects to the Golden Globe.
Oh, that's fucking weird.
That's weird. Somebody's probably fucking around. We tried it. National Academy. I don't know. Fuck it. I can't find anything on this thing. This site's a mess.
Usually, if you just go to Quentin Tarantino Internet Movie Database and click on the movie, it'll have like the awards it won. Those aren't. That's in like a grid. It's like looking at an Excel sheet, so that's not necessarily better, but probably be more easily accessible than that what they're giving you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm on the national. It's the Oscars website. It's all fucked up.
Oh yeah. I saw the Justin Roiland has a new show on Hulu called Solar Opposites. I don't know if you guys have seen that yet.
Yeah, I've watched the first 5 episodes with my wife.
I say it's pretty good, but it's also very it's like a somehow more violent and sweary Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Because like the main character is just Justin Roiland doing his essentially like a somewhat more monotone Rick voice. So it's kind of weird. But it's also just like super weird. So I appreciate that. So they continue to do all the weirdness.
Yeah, it's nice to have a bridge because I don't have access to the new season of Rick and Morty without paying for it. So it's nice to have kind of like something to fill that void until it finally like comes out on Hulu or whatever in like another couple months.
Yeah. I have a cable subscription, so I can watch it on AdultSwim.com. So the seasons are pretty good.
I heard it's been getting a lot of hate because everybody seems to hate a lot of the episodes in season 3, but
it's like it's. I think they're kind of they have to like respond against their fan base because most of their fan base sucks, or at least the loud part of it sucks. So there's some of that, but there's been some really good like just one-off episodes. There's not because there's always some of the other seasons. There's like threads that filter throughout, and there's like it's pretty like it's like watching. It's almost like watching Doctor Who, but it's Rick and Morty. But there's been some pretty. There was one episode where it was like on a train. It was like a literal. There was like a. It was like a plot device, but the train was like a literal plot device where it's like the plots of the show like conformed on this train and things like spun outwards. It was pretty good. And then they brought forth a term that I'd never heard of before, which is cum gutters. Which is like, so like when like a guy's like really fit and like he has abs, but then there's like those little creases that like basically like kind of point down towards his crotch.
Oh yeah,
I'm guessing those are cum gutters.
That sounds fucking weird, but yeah, I guess that makes sense a little bit.
Like,
I don't know why that should be cum gutters,
but they bleep. So on like AdultSwim.com, they don't bleep the swearing, but they did bleep that. So it's weird, but it's like it's Morty that brings it up. It's like, wow, Rick, look at the cum gutters on that guy.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And then the last episode was pretty good because it it was all about Rick using this trick about jumping in a vat of acid, and like and making the whole story revolve around that whole trick is like it's like a tricky proposition, but they do it like in a really strange way. So yeah, the season as a whole seems like not as interesting, but I think there's like some really strong episodes in there. So, but they only released like first half of the season, and then this is the second half of the season. But
Yeah.
I think there's supposed to be like 20 episodes this season, but they look
Jesus.
but it looks like they're only on pace to do 16. Well, they got renewed for like 100 more episodes.
Oh goddamn.
And they only do like 10 episodes a season. So they were supposed to start doing more episodes, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, right now I don't know. I mean, obviously I would assume they're at least able to write and put like storyboard stuff together at home, but not actually like put anything to actual production right now. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know where it gets animated at and who works on it. I guess.
Yeah, usually. Well, yeah, I don't know how it's animated. Usually that stuff's done in South Korea, but maybe they can do a lot of computer stuff now. Because the last episode, I noticed like some of the animation looked kind of like computerish. Like, oh, that's a little bit too smooth. That's not hand animated. So I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because there's an article I'm sure there is somewhere saying like how they animate it or where they do it at.
Well, I mean, usually like as far
I'm
as
sure somebody should.
well, yeah, they've done stuff. But usually, almost everything that's animated is animated in South Korea. Like The Simpsons, Family Guy, it's all animated in South Korea. But you can do like the writing, you can do pre-animatics, you can do in-house animation, you can do all that from your home. Because there's even stuff in like Family Guy where like if they have to do something last minute, like Seth MacFarlane will animate like a 1 minute panel for the show himself. Like they can still do that themselves. It's just they're probably not as good as their South Korean counterparts.
I guess it's just amazing South Korea is able to handle all that animation and stuff like that. There's that many people talented
Well,
enough to do that there.
they used to send it to Japan, but South Korea was cheaper. And then there's even like back end doors where like North Koreans do that stuff secretly, and then even it goes to China too. Like it's all over the place. But yeah, it's usually, but it's like all done in Asia. So. Because here's the even Japanese animation is not all animated in Japan. It's still like they ship it out to like the South Korean like animation mills where they whip people. No, I don't. That was a joke that they did. I remember in the Clerks, the animated series, because all those episodes had commentaries by Kevin Smith. They would talk about that stuff, and there was a joke in there about. There's even a joke in there where they had like a happy bear with a smile whipping their South Korean animators to get the episode out in time.
Well, because I was just watching something about how South Korea has like the most household debt of any Asian country or whatever because their credit card debt's out of fucking control or whatever. Like most people carry like multiple credit cards and have at least like $25,000 worth of credit card debt and stuff like that. So I was like, holy fucking shit.
Well, like we discussed Parasite last week, and we were talking about how like South Korean films are more like uniquely like I don't know, like they're American-esque. Like there's something about them, like they're more individual. Something about it's like more American, even though it's a completely different culture. So maybe that's one thing. Yeah, that's another thing. It's like, hey, we're they're in debt. We're in debt. It's like it's all cool.
Well, because apparently, like over there, like is when they're interviewing a bunch of people, like high U.S. fashion is like really popular. So like buying sneakers for no reason, like basketball sneakers, like a lot of people fucking do that over there and accrue a lot of debt, like chasing Jordans and shit like that. And it's like, why the fuck do they care about basketball sneakers? That's not their culture. And it's not, they don't play basketball and they probably don't really care that much about it, but they still buy all that shit.
Oh, yeah, it's just aping. It's just finding something interesting and copying it.
Yeah.
Aping some aspect of a culture that has a, aesthetic appeal.
But also, like, they have, video games are huge there in a way where, like, people who play video games are, like, celebrities, like sports celebrities, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
And also, they have a president who is essentially a Navy SEAL, so you know.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, their president.
Wasn't
He used to be like a special forces guy, and like you can look pictures of where he's like all badass and shit, and now he's their president.
That one lady got thrown out because all those people died in that boat accident. Turns out there's a whole bunch of corruption stuff there. There was something with public debt too. I don't know.
But yeah, like the
Very
movie.
violent politics over there sometimes.
Yeah.
I got some weird news from Michigan.
Yeah.
oh,
Some stuff that caught my eye this week. And I'm just going. I did read these entire articles and did some research, but this first one, just going on the headline, it kind of intrigued me. It's Michigan man charged with killing 18 wolves, 3 bald eagles, and more. And just read the title, it's like, whether this guy's some weird poacher or did this all happen at once? And it was like, what the hell is going on in the UP? But of course, it wasn't the interesting, like, like just animals laid siege to his house and he had to kill them all in one day for an 18-month period. And this includes, what else does it include? Deer, bear, and a bobcat.
Okay.
Found. So this guy was.
Yeah, well, actually, I hate that. Anytime there's like a headline, it's like "and more." The "and more" is just one more thing.
No, this is.
No.
It's like those, like it's like this guy has 35 plus airplanes. Like, so he has 36.
Yeah, just round that number off to make it a little more exciting.
Anyways.
Yeah, it just I when I first read that, I was like, "Whoa! If this happened all at once, there's a cool story." It's just poetry.
He had his own personal Zulu.
Yeah,
their first wave, and there's another one coming.
yeah. He had to like line his family up in rows. First row, reload. Second row, up. Yeah, no, it was nothing like that. It was just. It's like bald eagles and wolves are teaming up to attack people in the UP. Sounds like the place to be, but yeah, there's that was apparently.
How big is that dam break there?
Oh, the Mid-Michigan one, it's pretty big. Not near me, but yeah, it's catastrophic
okay. Well, I mean, because like the way it gets portrayed on the news, it's like this is the end of blah blah blah, and I didn't hear from you yet, like how far-reaching that catastrophe is.
I mean that part of Michigan is like where a lot of it's like vacation type places, because that's like from Saginaw, which is like where the thumb kind of Saginaw is the bottom of the thumb. Saginaw,
the webbing of the thumb.
Yeah, and so that's from like Saginaw over and down, and that's because they've had like torrential rains up there for a while. And 4 dams failed. Basically, one led to the other. It was a domino effect.
Yeah.
And one of those dams was privately owned, which I always, when I hear shit like that, I'm like, what? Who owns a dam? What do you do with the dam? But
And was it privately built, or did they just buy it from the government?
Yeah, it was just like something you can buy at auction. Yeah, it's like a tank and a dam for sale.
Like, quick, hopefully we'll stay on this, but like, so Vince McMahon, who owns the XFL, they declared bankruptcy for the XFL, so he didn't have to. He was clear of his debtors because he canceled the season and then folded up the league, and then basically from that, like, then the XFL name went up for auction and he bought it back, so now he owns the XFL again, and he didn't have to pay anybody money.
And this guy
Oh,
friend of Donald Trump, so just know that our country's in good hands, folks.
But I was like kind of vaguely listening to the rest of the Observer Radio. They were talking about it, and like I was kind of vaguely listening to it. And at one point, the guy goes like, "How is this legal?" It's like, well, rich people make the rules, and
That's how. Yeah, how can you file bankruptcy 4 times and still be a billionaire? I always wondered that. And I looked into it. And, okay, because this is you guys get to give each other hand jobs. It's like, because if I go bankrupt, I lose everything. It's like I have no status anymore. I mean, I might still have a job. But it's like you don't get to keep your car and your house and all. Yeah, but no, when those people go bankrupt, they make money, or they retain all the shit that they filed bankruptcy against. It's like cool. I want. That's like what you call Florida bankruptcy.
But
Well, it'll be
I mean, what they said is like it's not like Vince McMahon burned a lot of people because of this, so it's not like they're ever going to work with him again. But there's still plenty of like players that are going to be up for an XFL thing because they don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah, they're not doing anything else. Like fuck this, I'm going to NASA now. So, waiting for the next one. So yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if he was going to close the league and stuff like that because I figured he was probably going to do that where he just, for the second time in a row, cancels the league and freaking declares bankruptcy and stuff. But at the same time, Nathan, it would be like if everybody in your household was a division of your company and your son declared bankruptcy and you bought all of his shit for pennies on the dollar and gave it back to him.
That kind of stuff. It always makes sense.
Well, there's actually like a ton of metrics to say that the XFL was actually like fairly successful.
Yeah.
This year, but like, I think he just saw an opportunity to get out and he got out.
Yeah, I mean that coronavirus killed all that shit. So.
Yeah, because to be honest, like one was the earliest he probably could have like opened the league back up.
Well, I mean, it wasn't because it was only like 16 teams, so like their season wasn't gonna be that long. But like their whole idea is that because it starts immediately after the Super Bowl, so that's when they start up again. Because they're just capturing on, like, oh, people are in the are in the mood, or not necessarily in the mood to watch football, but they're in the habit of watching football. So just keep on that. So
You miss football? Try football light.
and they had like really interesting like presentation. Like they did, because like the actual original XFL had like really interesting presentation. That as soon as it folded, the NFL stole all that shit.
Oh, okay. So that they just took whatever they did right. It's like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, because like those those wire camps that had that just like sling across the stadium and watch things. Like the XFL did that.
Oh, that was them. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hollywood did stuff like that before, but they were the first time like, why don't we do that Hollywood shit in a football game? It's like,
Yeah,
well, wouldn't the football hit the camera? Well, who gives a shit? It's the XFL.
You work out the bugs. They're not taking on.
So yeah, they did more interesting presentation stuff that you wouldn't get in the, and nobody could kneel for the national anthem.
Right.
They made sure of that.
Oh yeah.
Fuck. And then
do that.
And then they just had like all the players were mic'd up, and like all the coaches and all like the defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators were mic'd up, and they just like play it during the game.
That's interesting.
Which made the announcers could hear all that stuff, but it's only one way. It's not like the defensive coordinator is like listening to the commentary. So, but the way that the director would like kind of put that stuff together, they'd end up either talking over each other, or the announcers would shut up and listen to like just gobbledygook of the defensive coordinator. It was like, all right, now 50 nickel 9, and like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. So we were talking about Michigan floods.
Yeah. Oh well, I really don't know much about that except we're now a disaster area within a disaster area. It's because we have the Corona crisis, and then we've got that. And Donald Trump was at my old plant this week.
Yeah.
That was rough.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, I worked there for 11 years. It's like a mile from it's a couple miles from my house. I was happy to see that. I was like, oh, good. I was actually surprised it's like, oh, that's still open? Okay. Good. So we got all us out of there. So. Yeah, he went down there and made some intelligent commentary about how beautiful it all is. I guess it is. I don't know. But the other thing the other weird Michigan news I wanted to talk about besides that was a Bay City man devised a plan to steal a helicopter from the Coast Guard in order to attack a police station and shoot up a hospital to disrupt power and free the coronavirus patients that were being held captive there.
Okay.
And didn't go too far because this guy showed up at the Coast Guard station with a shotgun in his truck, and of course, the Coast Guard stations are all locked up, and he kept pressing the speaker and like, let me in, so I don't know if this guy could actually fly a helicopter if he had access to it. Looking at the arrest photo, I'm saying no.
I can figure it out.
Yeah. So he kind of like waved the shotgun around at the Coast Guard, and they just stood behind their gate like, yeah, we're not letting you in. And then the police, of course, were called, and they found his truck in a convenience store parking lot running with a shotgun on the seat. And they were like, what are you doing? Are you fucking crazy? And it turns out, yes. He laid out this plan for him. So that's
I did all the research. This is my conclusion.
Yeah, this is the he wants to free the COVID-19 patients that are being held captive against their will, because this is all
they're being murdered to make Trump's stats look bad.
Yep. This is all a big political ploy.
Those aren't ventilators. Those are just pillows over their mouths.
Yeah. Yeah, there's people that believe that shit. Apparently a lot of them here. And then they extended our quarantine till the middle of June now. So that'll make everyone happy. There'll be more people at the courthouse with guns. Or the Capitol or whatever. All 15 guys on camera.
Well, they hurried up and passed the no guns in the Capitol building law yet?
I don't think they can get enough votes to pass that.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I mean, I heard that they talked about it, but then they said the state Supreme Court would probably strike it down. So I don't know. I mean, it wasn't an issue before because I don't know who's doing that, but these people want to. Like I said, there's probably like 100 of these people that are this crazy, but they make it look like, half of Michigan feels this. No. This is just something to get that shit on camera. Just clickbait. Yeah, it's there's a lot of weirdness going on right now here. Well, there's always a lot of weirdness going on. We seem to be one of those states where it's like really controversial to some people and everyone else just doesn't care. Because nothing, I mean, they say freedom's being impinged, but it's like, I just went to the store today and brought shrubs and landscaping tools or landscaping stuff, and like, there's nothing going on. There's no cop sitting there saying you can't buy a shrub. Like, no, they don't. Nobody's. There's not even a law against buying a shrub. You can buy shrubs. I did find out it was interesting. Someone was. I found out it's not legal to power spray your driveway here.
What?
Yeah, because it puts pollutants into the drains.
I guess.
I don't. Well, no, it's actually I don't. I always clean my driveway every spring. But they had some notice up in Lowe's or something about don't use this chemical on your driveway. It's illegal to power spray it if because you're putting this chemical into the drain. It's like, I've never heard of that. I don't use chemical stripper on my driveway to clean it.
I thought power washing is you just high pressure water. I didn't know it was.
Well, they have concrete cleaner, but someone told me it kills your grass. I was like, okay, I'm not using that. I'll just put some Simple Green down and it eats all the mold, and then you just off it goes. But yeah, they're making it like it's illegal to ever do it. Well, that's not what this thing's saying, but yeah, I don't know. We have a problem
because that's a whole Reddit. That's a whole Reddit. What do you call those?
Rabbit hole.
No, but that's the page. The Reddit thread or whatever. Our power washing porn.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Oh yeah. Check that out. Power washing porn. It's just people like.
Be painful.
No, it's just people power washing their driveways, and it's like look how dirty this is, and then look how clean it gets, and just people just watch it. And
oh, is that like those satisfying videos?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you meant like somebody was power washing a porn. That sounds brutal.
I'm gonna ruin my internal organs for pornography.
Yeah. Put that 00 head on the radio head. It's just like putting a blender in you. Well, this sounds weird, but I'm gonna watch it. Just gonna see what happens.
My colon is cleansed. If I had a colon anymore.
My organs have been liquefied. Now I can leave this life satisfied. What I was born to do.
Born to die. Just like the trucker hat.
To lose. I know a guy had that tattooed on his arm. Born to lose. It's like, really? Okay. I didn't even talk to him because it's like, no, I don't. I'm not going to hear anything I want to hear, I'm sure. Let's hear about your bug out bag.
Oh, my Mad Max bug out bag. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it starts off with I should lower my voice. I know I'm really loud right now. Tesla Model X Performance. So that raises the price from $99,000 for their SUV, which is basically a sedan raised up, to $104,000 because it offers slightly better steering and handling and all that jazz. So that's $104,000. Then I have 10 Nomad 100-watt solar panels for $400 a pop. They all fold out, and their dimensions are 8 foot by 2. So just kind of, and buy mounting brackets for each of them for $20 a pop, so I can hang them all over the car, or just lay them out on the ground while I'm stationary waiting for, somebody to chase me or chase somebody. Then I have a Nomad 28 Plus solar kit, so that's another $1,900. That's a battery I can put in the back that it puts the energy into, so you can use it for other things. And then I have a bunch of inverters and charge controllers to actually put the power into the battery for another $400.
Couldn't you just use one of those Tesla batteries that they make?
I didn't look that up. I was just using. I was going off more or less the website that had all the solar panels. I was trying to find stuff that was more or less harmonious.
I know Tesla makes like a giant battery for home storage of like solar and wind power. That's supposed to be good, and or it catches fire randomly. I don't know, but anyways, go ahead.
Power wall.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to go by the Mad Max lifestyle and have everything in the car.
Yeah.
So I was trying.
Well, you can fit it in the car. Just take up the whole back seat.
All right. So then I have a 243 Winchester with a scope, and the scope is a Vortex Optics Diamondback, which was recommended for the gun for medium to long range shooting. So something decent to pick people off with. And then I also have an M4 Tactical Beretta sawed off. so I could have a sawed-off 8-round shotgun in my cab. I have some life straws, so if I do find some water out in the wild, I'm fine. Phone, laptop. But then the other part is the making the water in the desert part of it. So there's a YouTube video of this guy, because the only other way that somebody's created water out of desert air is using rare earth metals and a big setup that would not be very transportation, plus Apocalypse, getting your hands on rare earth metals, probably not what you'd probably be able to do. But this guy, he had a couple of things of like rubber tubing, some plastic fittings, some glass like pipette tubing, and then like cigarette filters. So he takes the glass pipette tubing, he shoves 3 cigarette filters in one end, and then he puts 1 cigarette filter in the other end, and then he covers that with tubing and the plastic the fit. And so one of those produces 1 drop an hour off of desert air, just mostly during any time, either when you're daytime or nighttime. So I would blackout box that, and I'd have 1,000 of those. And I'd have that in like a big fucking rig I leave somewhere and just have it like strapped to the car somehow. And then like basically just create 1,000 drops of water an hour and then have it feed into a tank inside the car. Something like that, so I'd have water occasionally, since that seems to be one of the many things you have to worry about in the apocalypse. But I didn't really come up with a solution for food, because water is scarce enough. I don't think you can grow crops.
People.
So, I mean, I guess I had protein bars and like, god damn it, the MRE pouch is on there as well, because that's usually a go-to, because you kind of need something, at least something more mobile and stuff. But yeah, it was kind of interesting researching because I didn't think there's actually anything to create water out of desert air, but I guess there's like so much water in the atmosphere. It's basically like the world's oceans stuck in the air. So if you can find something to trap that, you can basically make as much water as you want.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And also the solar panels, I've researched the charge rate on them for all the inverters and the charge controllers. And basically, if you rigged it up right and you had 8 hours at least of sun time a day, for every hour you're out in the sun, each of those panels can make you drive 8 miles. And that's, without losses or anything. So probably about 7 or 6 miles a panel. So, like, for every hour I'm sitting out in the sun, since I have 10, like, I could drive 60 or 70 miles for every hour I sit in the sun. So, technically, I could probably drive, like, quite a bit of miles if I just sat outside all day and then drove at night or something like that. So, I don't know how that compares to you guys' bug out bags. I know Nathan you were talking about your dirty diesel truck that you're going to run a fuel conversion thing on it to, make the gas apocalypse not as bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little less. Mine's more like it's actually stuff that's like fairly readily available
Mm-hmm.
and has I don't know. I mean, it's theoretical, but it's more like grounded science. Like it's been around longer. Like because you could make the centrifuge to spin oil out of two, 24 kilowatt motors, top and bottom, and that's and the oil is just all the cars and things like that are around that are full of oil.
Yeah.
Because you're just making crude diesel fuel, and you're enriching it, in something because it's a compression-driven engine, and but who knows how long the engine would last under those circumstances? It would be very well lubricated, but you still stress everything out. But it's more based on things that are around than and widely available, like junkyards full of spare parts for these trucks. Like they're everywhere. Junkyards aren't full of Teslas yet.
They're not.
Not yet. And if they are junked, it's because the batteries went bad, and that's the most expensive part and the hardest part to replace.
Oh yeah.
Well, like some of the stuff I went with was more aesthetics because always in Mad Max, it's not necessarily like what people have isn't like the most practical. It's just like they just cobbled together something of what they had. So I had so mine was like an Eagle Talon with a lift kit and like big tires because they had shit in like Mad Max Fury Road where there's like just like a hot rod with 6 tires on it. It's like, well, that's not practical at all, but it looks cool.
Well, and in the last one, Fury Road, you remember they had their own refinery and bullet factory.
Yeah, Bullet Town.
So that's kind of like, if we have our own refinery, put an 8-wheel drive semi with a 57 Chevy hearse on top of it. Like, why not? Gonna get 4 miles to the gallon. And
have a semi rig with like horns on it, so the blind guy with a guitar can play a cool thing while you're attacking somebody.
Yeah.
No, because I didn't know if anybody was going to go with. Because my other thought was, since Nathan's doing like the whole conversion diesel, there is the biodiesel where you have like you can basically run on cooking oil and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean,
principle.
What
I was talking about.
Oh.
Because biodiesel. Well, biodiesel is that's I forget that has some other components to it where it's like organically combustible stuff. But yeah, when you're running your car off cooking oil and stuff, that's exactly the reason you're using cooking oil. Is all you got to do is spin the stuff that was cooked in and out of it, same centrifuge method, and then add gasoline or some kind of supplemental flammable to it to make like what I'm talking about is called black diesel, but that stuff is essentially the same thing.
Oh, okay. Because I had never heard of black diesel before until you mentioned it, so I didn't know that was actually a thing.
It's not it's a thing that like some guys do on YouTube for fun, but it's incredibly complex, and you've got to really. Some of these guys, I think they were chemical engineers, and this is their hobby. So people a lot smarter than me I'm just kind of aping what they're doing. It's like, well, if I had nothing but time on my hand and access to books and certain materials, I might try this. Oh, I'd probably just die because it's like, oh, this is not a world for a fat man.
And then I had a skeletonized AR-15 that was all held together by like duct tape and paracord. And then the gas tube was broken, so you have to use the charging handle for every shot.
Which would be fun.
And then I had that fuck was it? God damn it. The Chiappa 3-barreled shotgun that sawed off just because it's one more than what he had in Mad Max. And no bullets.
Third eye makes the difference.
Well, we watched the Netflix movie again this week.
Yes, we
Yep.
watched Spencer Confidential, which was okay. It was, it was kind of billed as an action comedy film, but it had not a lot of either in it.
Yeah.
It wasn't very funny. As a matter of fact, it was dark in a way, and then there wasn't a lot of humor. There were some good performances. I liked the guy who played Hawk. Like that, I think I was an interesting looking dude.
Yeah.
And Mark Wahlberg is, he's fun sometimes to watch. And one of my favorite actors who because I like this sarcastic look on his face. I talked about him before, Bokeem Woodbine.
Yeah.
He always looks like somebody farted. He's just like, what am I saying? Why am I saying this dialogue? What's going on? And then, of course, Mark Maron as the reporter, who I think they filmed all his scenes in one day.
Yeah, probably.
And he was on a boat, and he was always on a boat. And
It's directed by Peter Berg.
yes,
This is probably the worst movie he's ever made.
yeah,
Like this, and this is like, yeah, because Battleship's probably a better movie than this.
definitely more entertaining and certain.
Well, Battleship is completely ridiculous and awful, but it's also entertaining. This is more like mediocre, but still entertaining. Like inconsistently entertaining. Like the way I was thinking about, like this is like movies for dads to fall asleep to.
Right.
And then they wake up at the end. It's like, oh, that's pretty good.
Enjoyed that.
Yeah, I couldn't summarize that movie better because literally, I would say if I wouldn't have watched it when I was awake, I definitely could have fallen asleep to it. And like, yeah, that was a pretty good movie.
This also felt like a third mediocre, like it felt like a mediocre Jack Reacher movie, and we already have one of those.
Right.
Is that the Jack Reacher Never Stop Stopping movie, or is it...
Yeah. The second one is pretty bad. So the first one's good.
First one's good.
Yeah.
The second one is like, it's like, oh, this is going to be interesting. No, just like it just fell off a cliff. But yeah, this guy, I have seen a lot of his movies. I haven't seen Patriots Day or Mile 22.
Yeah, those are the recent ones.
I've not seen either of those, but Friday Night Lights is a great movie. The Kingdom was almost ahead of its time in a way.
Well, I mean, it was post 9/11, but
yeah, but it's like I don't think people realized how fucked up Saudi Arabia was at that time. Now, if we watch it, we'd be like, "Oh yeah, they're backing up reporters in their embassies." I mean, they're fucking crazy. And Lone Survivor was the one that like Stacy's like, "I want to see this movie. It's got Mark Wahlberg in it. It'll be fun." It's like, no, it won't be fun. I want to see it, and like she's crying in the theater. It's like, yeah, see, you didn't want to see it.
yeah, but it's a good movie. So.
It's a good movie. Nothing wrong with it. Deepwater Horizon was good. I didn't realize.
Yeah, it was
how
fine.
fucked up it was. Well, I
Yeah.
didn't realize how fucked up that disaster was. It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
I thought it was something that happened like suddenly, like they didn't know. And it's like, oh no, they were experimenting and trying to work around safety stuff. It's like, well, yeah, of course that happened. Hancock was. I watched that once. I was like, oh, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, it was like almost a good movie and then wasn't.
Yeah, it sort of fell.
Although you hear stuff about the original script, it's like more fucked up where it's like she's his mom and they have a relationship.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to be because they're like superheroes and they've just been around since like the Greek god times or whatever. But then it slightly changed. Can't even remember.
Yeah, and the Rundown that's a really cool movie.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Especially the guy with the whip. Like, who resurrected that? Made it look dangerous and cool. Like, oh, whips will fuck you up. But yeah, this one was kind of, I don't know what it was trying to be. I mean, there was some. I mean, I sat through it and watched it, and I wasn't like, oh God, I hate this. Get this over with. But it sort of just left me like, huh.
But it wasn't so bad that it was like fun. When it was bad, it wasn't fun.
No.
But when it wasn't bad, it was okay, and that was fine. It never like, but there was never really like, oh, I'm really into this. It was just kind of all fine until they like tried to like pick out a like we're gonna do a sequel at the end. It's like, oh, another person's been framed. It's like he's got another job to do. It's like, no, fuck that.
I don't want to see this sequel. There's some
No, but there.
No.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say there's certain parts in the movie where I was confused because literally it made no fucking sense what they were putting on screen. Because there's two parts in the movie where they put literal word like Boston words on screen, Southie and Lobster, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like, yes, I said Southie, or yes, I said Lobster. I don't know why you're putting it in the middle of the fucking screen. But the other one was that they literally had like all these things where like the mom or the woman whose husband supposedly kills himself was like screaming at the camera like, he didn't do it, how dare you fucking. And it's like, and then the one with the firefighter guy in the end where they're trying to set up the sequel is like, I didn't do it, I'm innocent, somebody please help me. And I'm like, none of that shit would make air.
The stuff I was confused by is that I didn't know how old Mark Wahlberg was supposed to be, but I think he's supposed to be way younger than what he actually is.
Yeah, because everyone else in this movie's in their 20s.
Well, it's like he was in prison for 5 years, and then everyone's talking about like in the academy days, and it seemed like he was in the academy like 10 years ago, but like Mark Wahlberg was almost 50. It's like, did he start being a cop when he was like 35?
Yeah. Late start.
Which if he did, that'd be interesting. But it's like but that never gets followed up on or anything. Because I almost thought like, was he a boxer before he became a cop? Because it like almost makes sense, but they never bring that up.
No.
Because he's always worried about like he hates people kicking, and he's all about throwing punches correctly.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting.
I think this movie was just like a tour of where he actually lived and grew up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because like this whole team makes, because you have like, because they did what the Patriot, what's the Patriot one about the Boston Marathon bombing?
Patriots Day, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, they kind of like, because that whole like they do all the, so it's like Mark Wahlberg, Peter Berg, and all of them together making a movie about Boston. I think there's a second one because I don't think any of the other ones were, but I think they just kind of like that's their territory. They're all from there, and they want to make movies about that stuff. So just kind of slotted in and makes sense in some way, but
yeah,
just didn't really come together.
I felt that oh, sorry.
One thing I thought that was weird when I was researching this movie was the guy who shanked him in prison, the Squeeb.
Yeah, Post Malone.
I didn't know who that was.
Yeah.
And I was like, because I thought, oh, that's some weird makeup. It's like, oh no, that guy actually looks like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then I went down this whole Post Malone rabbit hole. I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh wow, what a strange.
I only vaguely know who he is.
What a strange man with this very. It's he's some kind of like rap guy.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, he actually looks like that in real life. Like that's not for a movie. I thought. They were trying to make.
No, he's just actually ridiculous, and they just put him on camera and get all that money's worth.
Yeah. He's in our movie. Again, all filmed in one day, I'm sure. But yeah.
No, there was a part when he gets out of prison or whatever, and then he goes back to this or whatever, Henry's house. That's his fucking name. And so he's going there. He's like, "Oh, my dog is take care of her, Pearl, or whatever." And it's like they missed a golden opportunity to be like, "Hi, Pearl. I'm Mike Wahlberg. How are you?" It's like, "Say hi to your mother for me," and then just walk off. I think they should have done that, and there should have been a good fourth-breaking comedy joke in there.
Well, this movie's a turd. Let's start breaking the fourth wall every 5 seconds.
Ex-girlfriend was interesting. Like, she was a good actress. It seemed like she was ad-libbing her dialogue the whole time, kind of. Like, she was just... I don't know anything about Ilsa Schlesinger.
Yeah, me neither.
She seemed like... Yeah.
The other thing is, like, there seem to be a lot of, like, I don't know if it's poor music choices, but they seem to make a lot... There's, like, a lot of music that pops in to seem to just, like, them trying to cover up, like, oh, this will make it better if we just throw music on it.
Yeah, because they had weird music. I mean, it's all songs you know.
Yeah.
But it's like, how does this fit in? Or maybe were they songs by Boston musicians?
Probably.
Yeah. I know they had, like, Boston in there, the band.
Because remind me, like, when you make, like, when you're younger and you make movies and, like, because you don't have a production or good actors or a good script and you're just kind of shooting shit and putting it together, you throw music on it and suddenly your production value goes up. It's like, well, this is tolerable now. So, but these are professionals who should probably be able to make a movie without needing music to, like, make the movie seem better.
Right.
You should have just had a good score.
Yeah, it wasn't the best thing I'd ever seen. Based on I didn't put it together until I was watching the show. I was like, oh, this is Spencer for Hire, the TV show from the 80s and 90s. Because when they started calling the guy Hawk, I was like, oh, Avery Brooks, that's Captain Sisko. Like, yeah, he did that character in the Spencer for Hire. And then there's a whole book universe of this, where it's basically it's all based in Boston.
Yeah. I like the action scene at the end where he, like, just runs that semi through a bunch of cars. That looked cool.
Yeah. It's a way to keep
But I had
driving away.
But I had no damage on the semi after he ran it through like 6 cars.
Well, at least they did a practical effect that looked kind of cool. It wasn't CGI or something.
Yeah, that's true.
The CGI eagle did fly in. That was a little weird. Before the truck showed up, remember when everyone was looking?
Oh.
What's that loud engine roaring up? And then they had the weird CG eagle, which I think was an homage to the TV show, because the TV show had the eagle in the intro.
Oh.
No, but don't worry. The movie next week.
That was funny.
What's that?
Oh.
Those old cars, the Rivieras.
Yeah. Was that the car from the show?
No, I don't know what that was all about. That was probably some in joke I didn't get.
Oh, okay.
It was just an old guy driving a big old car from the 80s.
No, I was just gonna say the next week's movie is way better.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not as long as I thought it would be, which is kind of surprising. But other than that,
it's like, hey, if you're gonna waste everybody's time, like, might as well waste the least amount of it.
We keep this under 80 minutes.
I mean, if you like the Kimmy Schmidt show, you'll like that movie. I mean, I was more kind of confused towards the beginning of the movie because they didn't really explain what was going on for the most part, besides you just getting married. So I was like, oh, okay. And so, yeah.
There's a couple interesting ones I want to check out because there's that Charlize Theron comic book action movie coming about, I think, next month, which that, like, seems interesting, but, you know, we've been disappointed by most of the movies we do on here, so we'll see.
I'm gonna hold my breath or anything.
The Five Bloods might be really interesting.
Yeah, that could be interesting, or it could just be a better Dead Presidents movie. I don't know, or a worse one. We'll see.
Yeah,
because it's the two on the horizon that I can think about. But
Yeah, I watch Netflix announcements for June because that the Five Bloods is like the big movie that they have in June. Otherwise, there's not really anything that anybody should necessarily care about. And then July is like when everything else hits between Umbrella season 2 and
Like
the
the old
short,
guard.
yeah, the old guard, yeah.
Um,
Oh, I guess Space Force hits sometime next week too, or this week.
oh yeah, that's
So,
Netflix. I keep thinking I keep confusing that with the HBO Space Force show.
oh,
Did you ever see that, Nathan?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I watched like the first episode. It has like Hugh Laurie in it, and it's done by the people that did
Was
VP
that
or
the
Veep.
comedy
Yeah,
in space?
Yeah.
with Titanic. Yeah, I'd never watched that. Is it any good?
no. Well, it's like one of those shows where like you want to appreciate because they're doing comedy and they don't have a laugh track.
Yeah.
But it's just stupid.
Oh, okay.
But this is from the team that does Veep, and like Veep was really good, but like I don't know, it just didn't connect with me in any way. But I just only saw one episode. Maybe it gets better because there's like some people that are like, yeah, that new show like on HBO, it's like better than any comedy that's out right now. And I was like, no, it isn't. But like I said, I only watched one episode and just bailed out.
Yeah, that would. When I first saw previews for it, I was like hoping it had like an airplane vibe, but then I never heard anything else about it, so I didn't follow up.
I mean, it's kind of like that, but it's not intentionally that. It's like just like it's one of those movies where it's like here's a series of mistakes that only happened because profit,
Yeah.
and then like just and it just continues to be that. It's like, oh, like how'd this happen? And it's like, well, it was a series of preventable things that happen, and the only reason it happened is because people are greedy and stupid,
Yeah.
which can be fun, but that's not what I want out of my optimistic future movie. Like, look, this impenetrable greed that ruins everything. It's still around in the future.
Yep. We've never outgrown it.
It's the only way the world runs. Which I don't know when season 3 of Orville's coming back, but it's a Hulu exclusive show now. But
oh, really?
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Because
Yeah,
if you want Star Trek, go to Orville because none of the new Star Trek stuff is doing it.
No. See the Mr. Plinkett's takedown of
Yeah.
Picard. Yeah.
So now I don't have to watch Picard.
Yeah, no. It's like, yeah, this is exactly it.
I love the thing that they did at the end where they basically compared like the new shows with the old shows and like how like optimistic and forward looking the old shows were, and then this one's just all people getting shot and eyes being torn out and violence.
Yeah. Being killed.
And I like it. They always use that thing where it's that one admiral going "shut the fuck up" and they call her Admiral Fuckface.
Riker was funny. Yeah, because it's like Jonathan Frakes doesn't act like that anymore. Because it's like, did he eat too many? He doesn't look like he can sit in the chair. Like, yeah. They basically that show.
Well, I think like the most interesting part about that is like I just assume this is like the ego of the producers, but like they kind of put some blame on Patrick Stewart as like they had some rules to convince him to do the show, and it seems like those rules he put in place might have just ruined the show right off the bat.
Yeah. Yeah, there was somebody had a very interesting take on him. Is like, this is a guy who, when he left Star Trek, did very after the movies and anything he was getting paid for a lot of money. After that stopped, he he never had anything to do with Star Trek again. He didn't give a shit. He didn't go to a lot of conventions or anything unless he was getting paid a boatload of money. And now he comes back and he's like, oh yeah, he wants because I think he has a producer credit or an executive credit or something. It's like, oh, okay, what's that all about?
But he's always been making stuff because like he was. I think they're still making American Dad, but he's been a voice on that for like 12 years, however long that show's been around.
Yeah.
And then he had that one show on Showtime where he plays like the news anchor, and he's had like another show. So he's been working on stuff forever.
Yeah, but he just like never really was like super.
He had somewhere to go after Star Trek,
Yeah, and he didn't really do a lot of.
but he didn't. But none of it was like huge or anything. It was just kind of
No.
there.
No, he made his money. But yeah, that was. I never thought of it that way, or didn't even know about it. Because to be honest with you, I don't go to Star Trek conventions either. So how
Yeah.
super fans always kind of felt.
Well, that's just like always the thing they talk about with like typecasting, and they point to Star Trek. Like everybody who worked in Star Trek never worked in anything else ever again because nobody could get over that that's the person's from Star Trek. And then, but you can make lucrative money just going to doing signings at Star Trek conventions. It's like, well, then you're not an actor anymore. You're just someone that does signings and appearances.
Yeah.
But then, but that's not. But now it's not the way anymore. So.
Right.
You don't have to worry about that stuff. Now you have movie actors doing TV shows instead of doing movies because it's more reliable. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, well, this is gonna last the whole year. I'll get paid a boatload of money, and and I never have to move. I don't gotta do like a 2-month shoot in France to pick up two shots for this movie.
Yeah, you don't have to work every 2 years and then try to save your money the rest of the time.
Or you don't gotta like be constantly chasing film projects because if you miss a year, then like everybody forgets who you are, and then your rest of your career's dead.
Yeah, so that thing. But I still believe they could make a better Star Trek today. I don't know what
Yeah.
has happened.
Well, Orville.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not necessarily better Star Trek, but it's like it's Star Trek TNG,
Right.
pretty
yeah.
much a carbon copy of it.
Yeah.
Just with more humor, and I don't mind the humor because their optimism is way better.
And they have some interesting ideas.
Yeah. Because it's not all Seth MacFarlane being Seth MacFarlane. It's a straight up sci-fi show.
Yeah.
There's just like occasional nuances of like, hey, isn't this weird? And then like once they get out of that Rodney Dangerfield moment, it's like, all right, back to the show.
Yeah. Which is interesting because Seth MacFarlane's a huge Star Trek fan.
Yeah, he was actually an actor in several episodes.
Yeah.
Not like I don't think he had any lines. He was just like a background guy.
Right. But, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what maybe something good will happen. I don't know.
I
Or
doubt
won't.
it. Yeah.
Well, nothing good is going to happen with this crew.
No.
But who knows? Everything's being sold and bought, and God knows what entertainment's going to look like a year from now.
Yeah.
If you can't get people in movie theaters, I mean, you can get them watching TV, but you can't get a big crew together to film stuff because everyone will get coronavirus. So that's fun. Yes. No, it's not fun. I mean, don't get coronavirus. Just really want to. Don't go to a pool party. Like 100 people in Arkansas got affected or infected or whatever.
Yeah, and Trump didn't today. He like said he's prioritizing opening churches now, or places of worship anyway.
Yeah, I mean
That's one of the things he says, and then like people go, "Is this legal?" And it's like I don't know. He just says shit all the time.
Yeah, it's something he'll say, and then nothing will, nothing will come out of it.
Because anytime he says something like "we're doing this now," and then it all trickles down to like, well, it's up to the individual states to what they want to do.
Yeah, which is why they have governors and a assembly and their own license plates and their own rules. It's because that's how our country was made. That's what the founding fathers intended. It's funny how everyone loves the Constitution until it gets in the way of their personal power. And it's like, this isn't what they meant. It's like, no, it's exactly what they meant. This is why they were doing it.
Well, because everybody's political commentary of like, oh, this is infringing on my constitutional rights for me to have to, not go to these places, not go to work, have to wear a mask, have to social distance, have to be told to do all these things because it's my choice, it's my body. And it's like, well, that would be fine if it only stopped at you, but unfortunately, it's not just your choice. It also impacts everyone you're around. So I don't think the Constitution had anything in there about. I mean, yeah, it said we're not supposed to be able to be denied the pursuit of happiness and chasing our dreams and all that bullshit. But I don't think that pertains to this situation at all. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I get the people. At least I understand the anger. I don't support it, but I get the people that like own businesses and are just being driven into bankruptcy because they can't open their businesses. I understand the frustration there, and I think in some cases they should do it more to help people like that and not lose their businesses. But on the same token, you can't just march around and start screeching about my rights and all this. It's like, it's not really. That's not. No one's doing this as some kind of directed thing against you personally. It's just we don't have a way to react to this that's effective. It's just like the shit we're doing at work. It's like next week's going to be a fucking blast wearing masks in those plants when it's like 90 degrees outside. And they don't acclimatize those plants in any way. They stick some fans up, which, I wonder when I got back, I wondered about the fans. Like, are those just blowing disease around? I understand why the guys need them, but it's like at the same time, it's like, what do we know? Has anyone studied that? I'm sure someone's has or hasn't. I fucking knows.
Well, it's something where it supposedly rides on air pollution a lot farther than 6 feet. So that's why supposedly all of the industrialized and heavy pack cities have been getting hit worse is because all the smog and everything that's in their area. Because everybody seems to bitch about like, all these states, like my dad, when I talked to him to see how he was doing, just railed and railed against how fucking shitty New York's plan was and how Iowa was doing it right and all this other stuff. And it's like, people in Iowa don't live in fucking like sardines in apartment buildings sharing the same air, and they also don't have to go all to the same fucking convenience store to buy their goddamn food. So it's
we don't have a fucking Subway.
Yeah, it's like we don't have the huge reliance
in
on
Iowa. If you don't
transport.
have a car, you're fucked.
Oh, I know, and I tried to iterate that point again to him today because he was saying like all these people living off unemployment or leeches and shit. And it's like, yeah, Dad, but today you have to, own a car to get to a job. He's like, no, you don't. I'm like, what fucking world do you live in? You don't need a car to get.
They do have a bus line here, but that's been shut down for like, it hasn't been reopened, hasn't it?
No, it just reopened this week.
Oh, okay. Because I remember like that'd be hard for people that don't have a car. It's like, well, you don't even have a bus now. Like, walk everywhere.
Well, because my dad was like, you can walk or run to work. And I'm like, well, if you fucking had something in maybe the same city, I guess. But to be honest, like, who wants to, even if you lived on the other side of Cedar Rapids, like, if you had to, you live on the other side of Cedar Rapids now and you had to walk to work, you'd have to devote half your day to getting to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. First day, it's like -20 with a 40-mile-an-hour wind. I'd be on the phone. Hey, Dad, walk to work. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, it's gonna be too much. It's gonna take too long to walk back home, so I'm just gonna sleep outside of work. Make the trek back when the work week is over with.
Well, because I was trying to tell them like wages need to go up and shit because like right now people don't get paid enough and they're trying to live off all this shit. And he was like, "Oh, people get paid enough. They can't find better jobs or whatever. They're too depressed or don't feel worthwhile to find better jobs that pay well." And it's like, I get paid $23 an hour. There's nothing else in this town or anywhere close that pays that for somebody who doesn't have a college education and has no skills.
I have a college education and machinist skills, and all the people want to give me is $12 an hour. I make 16 at Walmart.
Oh, really? For fucking machinists, they only want to give you 12? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, that's all the offers I get. It's like, come to Fort Worth, Texas to work a machinist job for $12 an hour. It's like, hey, fuck you.
Sounds like a great deal.
Yeah, especially since Fort Worth, I'm assuming, has way higher living costs than Iowa does.
Yeah, and way more crime too. Um, no, there's something about subway. It was like New York. There's a book written about this guy. I can't remember what his name was. He basically got like a bunch of like highways like constructed like through New York City. He's basically like the most powerful person in New York City that wasn't a politician because he was like good with paperwork and he just ended up getting all these bills through that gave him a bunch of power. But he did some shit where like he made sure like the highways were like low enough that a bus couldn't fit through there. So,
Oh, yeah, that's what is that called? What is that called? The Long Island. There's a name for it. Yeah, they made because there's some of those boroughs and islands that are like where they're all out on things. Yeah, you can't drive buses or anything. There's no reason for it except the bridges were built that way. What's that place called? Yeah, I know what road you're talking about.
but this guy did this intentionally, so like the city couldn't like you had to use the roads. You couldn't you couldn't use city transportation and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they won't undo it either.
Or maybe it was the elevated trains. I can't remember. It was stuff like that.
No, I've heard that before. That like a lot of those extended freeways they have that run through New York is like, yeah, people have to have cars to get there. There's no other option because it was designed that way on purpose. And not only does everyone know it was designed that way, but it still exists to this day. Like when they rebuild that shit, they build it to the same stats. They don't like upgrade it. And there's lots of reasons for that. I mean, there's a pretty ugly correlation between crime going up and having a lot of public transportation in some areas. It's like always happens. It's like, huh. But it depends on what you're doing too. It's like, what are you bringing people into town for? It's like good jobs. It's like, well, no, fuck that. It's like, well, yeah, of course your crime rate's going to go up. No one has anything to do. It's going to use the bus to go murder people.
Well, you have public transportation in New York, so like 'cause people can't afford a car and rent. So
yeah, well, you have to pay to park your car in New York. Like that's a pay thing. It's not built in, even if you have a nice luxury apartment.
Well, I mean, it depends like where you are.
Yeah.
Because like I always get because like I've never been to New York, or well, I guess I was born there, but I've never been to New York City. And like how it's divided, like how you see it depicted in movies and stuff isn't necessarily like how it is.
Yeah.
Because there's like Manhattan Island, and then you got like Harlem and the Bronx is like above like kind of like Manhattan downtown area.
Mm-hmm.
And then above that is like the Upper East Side and the Upper West Side, and I think that's where like all the rich people live.
Yeah.
And then you have Brooklyn. So you have the Brooklyn Bridge. That Brooklyn's a part of Manhattan. Or not Long Island. Yeah. Long Island is like a huge fucking thing. It's like 5 times the size of Manhattan Island. And then you got Staten Island in there somewhere.
Yeah, they all come together.
Yeah.
In some weird way.
Because there's like some parts it's like some parts in New York City like you're living on top of each other. It's basically an office building but with people living there. But then like when you get to like Long Island, like the further you get out, it's just like it might as well be Cedar Rapids. Like there's no building taller than 3 stories and shit like that.
It's just an ad, and they're also really really right wing too.
Yeah,
because they hate the city, and I was surprised. One of my bosses is from New York, and he was telling me all this stuff. He was like, "I'm surprised New York didn't go for Trump." It's like, "What do you mean? I thought they hated him there." He's like, "Well, that's." That's the main big parts of the city. Because you get out in the woods. Because
you're getting like actually state New York, like northern and western state New York, and
like Long Island and stuff. Like really right wing out there. Depends on how much money you have. He says usually the poorer people are more right wing. It's like, oh, so it's the same everywhere. Closer you get to working class, the more conservative they become, and most of them work like city municipal jobs that are totally dependent on Democrats and taxes and stuff, and they all hate them. It's like, well, what do you do for a living?
And then there's some podcasts I listen to that are from New York, and nobody ever has anything good to say about Staten Island. It's like,
yeah.
you go to Staten Island, you take the Staten Island ferry, you go to Staten Island, you leave Staten Island.
Yeah, they have their own interesting little. It's like It's like kind of like Europe. It's like people within 50 miles of each other hate each other, like tribally. It's so weird. It's like, yeah, that's the old world.
Oh, maybe we'll learn something about that new King of Staten Island movie.
That one coming out,
I don't know.
or well, it's probably no telling.
It's
now.
a smaller movie, so I imagine they'll just release it regardless.
Yeah.
Oh.
Release date TBD.
Well, I think it was actually like pinned for June, but
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I can look it up. I mean, nobody really matters. It doesn't really matter, but because
Interesting.
I mean, you got the. I mean, it's all about like a guy. You know, Pete Davidson. It's basically Pete Davidson playing himself, but like
Yeah.
as a. Yeah, it says release date June 12. We'll see.
They did the movie, I think, because they didn't make it because Pete Davidson's dad actually died on 9/11. Right?
Yeah.
But they kind of changed.
And
it.
this, he just said he died in a fire.
Yeah, so they didn't make it. We got Bill Burr in there, basically playing Bill Burr.
Yeah.
I still like the opening joke though on the trailer or whatever, where it's like, "Oh, my dad died in a fire." The guy's like, "Knock, knock," and then he's like, "Who is it? Not your dad." So yeah.
There's a new YouTube channel well it's like the Dead Dad cooking show. Dead Dad's Kitchen.
Oh.
So basically this woman like it's a cooking show and then she has guests on and her father is dead and whoever guest she has on their father is dead and they basically talk about things that their fathers made for them and they cook them on the show. It's fucking weird.
It sounds a little bleak.
But they make it, they try to make it fun. It's all like kind of like, it all ends up being like jokes about their father being dead, which is like a weirdly, like, I don't know if I should be laughing at this.
I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Because John Gabris, who's on the Action Boys, and he does a bunch of other podcasts. He guests on tons of podcasts like the Comedy Bang Bang and stuff like that. And so he was on there, and like in the Action Boys podcast, he's constantly talking about his father because he died terribly at like 40 or something like that, and but also he was like 6'8" and like 400 pounds.
Yeah,
but he actually died. I think he died of a brain disease. But yeah, he always has a lot of father's issues which come up in this. He basically talked about his dad as if he was like Steven Seagal. That's always funny. And he like
giants. So
yeah, and he got like his Taekwondo black belt when he was like 40. And you just drag him and his other brothers to go watch his Taekwondo classes, and like I don't know if we're supposed to be intimidated by this or proud of it. And he's like throwing around like 10-year-olds at the class. But then they'd watch action movies together, and he'd be like, "Johnny, if you're gonna work, you'd like." Don't learn about swords and shit like that. Like, learn the bow staff. Like, anything can be a bow staff. You can get a mop, you got a weapon. Like, that was the advice his dad would give to him.
What was Grayson telling me once about? We were joking. This was recently. It was like best dad advice. Because he was talking about like some of the guys that he's known growing up, and they would tell stories about their parents, and Grayson was like, "Oh shit, we got it pretty good." You know what his dad said or did or whatever, and it is terrible stuff. But it was like, like what's the best piece of advice? What's something wise that dad's ever told me or something? And Grayson was like, "Well, my dad told me don't do anything you're not willing to get caught doing." Like, what does that mean? It's like, well, if you're not willing to be in trouble for it, don't do it. That's what I intended. That's what I told him. I said, look, I'm not going to make some moral play here. Just don't do anything you're not willing to be punished for. But he translated that into like, well, if you can get away with it, do it. Not exactly what I meant. I can understand why you'd interpret it that. And then, of course, the Patton Oswalt parenting school about where he was watching parents in the park. And this girl was like hitting these kids with sticks, and the dad came up, was all upset. He's like, "No, go for the face." Dad was gonna be upset because his daughter was swinging sticks at people. It's like, no, go for the throat or something. I forget what it was.
Quit fucking around. Go for damage.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I have for this week.
Yep.
You guys got anything else?
Nope.
I mean, we have all these movies to talk about, but we're not going to. Oh yeah, we missed talking about The Assignment again. Oh well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Shit. We need to talk about that.
Um,
We'll definitely put that at the top of the list for next week.
well, I got all these movies that like we've all seen, like Alita: Battle Angel, Ford versus Ferrari, and Fury.
Yeah.
Like at this point, I don't think we're ever going to talk about Fury. It's like there's some. It was sad, and there was a tank.
Fury, aka Sad Tank.
I'd watch Sad Tank.
Sad Tank. Is that like Tank Girl? Well, Tank?
No, it's more like Shark Tank.
Yeah.
But it's about the people who don't get picked up.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to Sad Tank. We won't accept you either.
I have a great idea to die.
Is it death? Because that's what we wish upon. Anyways, yeah.
All right. This week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew.
Goodbye, America.